talking about the biggest sporting event in the United States. John here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions at, on, and in relation to time. The conversation takes place at home.
It's between Kate and Sean.
The speakers are friends, so they'll use informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
Sean, when is the Super Bowl?
It's usually in February, but the date changes.
What date was it in 2015?
It was on February 1st.
What time does it usually start?
It starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Thank you.
Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
Sean, when is the Super Bowl?
It's usually in February, but the date changes.
What date was it in 2015?
It was on February 1st.
What time does it usually start?
It starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Thank you.
In this conversation, Kate was checking the date and time of the Super Bowl.
Maybe she wants to go next year?
Maybe. It's important to double-check the date and time if you're invited somewhere.
Yeah, a lot of invitations, especially between friends, are given verbally.
So the details might not be written down. I usually only get actual invitations for big events like weddings.
Me too, so I always double-check the date and time. Also the meeting place.
That's important too. You don't want to wait in the wrong place.
I've waited in the wrong part of the train station before. It was embarrassing.
I can only imagine. What happened?
Well, I had my smartphone with me, so I double-checked the details and then went to the right place.
Smartphones make things much easier. If I'm having a party, I make a Facebook event and invite my friends that way.
That's really convenient. I often get invites by text or messenger apps.
Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
When?
a question word used to ask about time.
When? When?
Next we have
Super Bowl.
an annual event that is the championship game in the National Football League.
Super Bowl. Super Bowl.
Next we have
Usually.
normally, commonly.
Usually. Usually.
Next we have
Date.
a day in the calendar.
Date. Date.
Next we have
To change.
to alter.
To change. To change.
Next we have
February.
the second month of the year.
February. February.
Next we have
First.
ordinal number for one.
First. First.
Next we have
To start.
to begin something.
To start. To start.
Next we have
PM.
the 12-hour period that is after 12 in the afternoon and before midnight.
PM. PM.
And last,
Eastern.
situated in the East, one of the time zones that is used in America.
Eastern. Eastern.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
Usually.
meaning normally, commonly. What can you tell us about this?
This is an adverb of frequency. It tells us how often something happens.
We can use usually to describe something we do often, but not 100% of the time.
Yes, it's more like 90% of the time.
How do you use it in a sentence?
You should put it before the verb. For example, usually plays baseball.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, he usually exercises after finishing work.
In other words, he normally exercises after finishing work. Okay, what's the next word?
First.
Which is the ordinal number for 1. What can you tell us about this?
It's an ordinal number, so you use it for dates and for order.
So if you win a race, you are first.
That's right. Ordinal numbers in English follow a pattern of adding th to the number.
Like 4th, 8th, 13th, and so on.
But a few numbers like 1 have special ordinal numbers, so be careful.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure, for example, you can say, my birthday is on October 1st.
Okay, what's the next phrase?
Eastern Time.
Which is a time zone in the US. What can you tell us about this?
Eastern comes from the direction east and means things that are to the east.
And time?
Time is a measure in hours and minutes, so Eastern Time means the time zone that the east coast of the US follows.
Right. The US is a big country, so different parts have different time zones.
If you see TV shows advertised, you might see different start times listed, and that's why.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, do you know what time that is in Eastern Time?
Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn how to use prepositions at, on, and in relation to time. For this lesson, we will look at 3 prepositions that are easily confused.
Yes, they get mixed up all the time. The good news is that their use is pretty simple. You just have to remember it.
Remembering is the hard part, though.
I'm sure you can do it, John.
Thank you. The first preposition is at.
We use at to talk about time. If we want to say when something will happen and use a time, we need at.
So we say at 3 o'clock or at 5:30.
That's right. At goes before the time.
How do we make a sentence using this?
The usual way is to say what will happen, followed by at and the time.
I wake up at 7 o'clock.
That's it. Another example is, the accident occurred at midnight last night, and police are looking for witnesses.
That sentence was more difficult, but the grammar was the same. At midnight.
Right. It stays the same, even if the sentence is easy or difficult.
Our next preposition is on.
We use on for days of the week. On Monday, on Wednesday, like that.
I didn't study on Wednesday.
Well, your sentence is right, but you should study every day.
I know. The last preposition for this lesson is in.
We use in for months of the year. For example, in February, in December, for example.
I went to Australia in September.
Lucky you. We also use in for time periods such as in the morning or in the evening.
Although I'm always tired, I always read to my children in the evening.
Or my birthday is in April.
So to sum up, we use at for time, on for days, and in for months and time periods.
Listeners, make sure to check the lesson notes PDF for more examples and additional information about the prepositions covered in this lesson.
Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Sean, when is the Super Bowl?
It's usually in February, but the date changes.
What date was it in 2015?
It was on February 1st.
What time does it usually start?
It starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Thank you.
Going to a conference in the United States. John here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn how to use the prepositions at, on, and in relation to place. The conversation takes place in the office.
It's between Sean and Rachel.
The speakers are coworkers, so they will use informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation. The national conference is tomorrow.
Yes, it will be held in New York.
Do you know where?
It's at the Sheraton Hotel.
The Sheraton on 7th Avenue?
Yes, that's it. Have you been there before?
I stayed there on vacation once. Listen to the conversation one time slowly. The national conference is tomorrow.
Yes, it will be held in New York.
Do you know where?
It's at the Sheraton Hotel.
The Sheraton on 7th Avenue?
Yes, that's it. Have you been there before?
I stayed there on vacation once. Sean and Rachel have a conference to attend.
Yeah, sounds like it will be a work conference.
At least it's in a good hotel.
Right. I have friends that are always traveling for work conferences.
Yeah, I guess that some people have to go to a lot of conferences for their jobs. It's a good place to find out more information or new ways of working.
You can also meet people from other companies and do some networking.
That's especially true if it's a national conference and people travel from all over the country. The company might even pay for your hotel stay.
Those are the best conferences. Nice hotel, free food.
You make it sound like conferences are awesome.
They can be, but sometimes you have to do some research before.
Yeah, sometimes you have information to read through or may even have to give a talk.
Those are the worst conferences.
Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
National.
relating to an entire country.
National. National.
Next we have
Tomorrow.
the day after today.
Tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Next we have
To hold.
to arrange and take part in a meeting or event.
To hold. To hold.
Next we have
To know.
to be aware of something.
To know. To know.
Next we have
Hotel.
a place to stay while on vacation.
Hotel. Hotel.
Next we have
Avenue.
a road or street in a town.
Avenue. Avenue.
Next we have
Before.
the time preceding.
Before. Before.
Next we have
To stay.
to visit, to remain somewhere.
To stay. To stay.
Next we have
Vacation.
leisure trip, trip taken only for enjoyment.
Vacation. Vacation.
And last,
Once.
one time.
Once. Once.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
National.
meaning relating to an entire country. What can you tell us about this?
It's an adjective you use to describe something that is common to an entire country.
I often hear it used in sports.
That's right. If there's a sporting event that involves teams or athletes from all over the U.S., it will be a national championship.
But it isn't only used for the United States, right?
No, a national championship in Canada, for example, would have teams and athletes from all over Canada taking part.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, he will be delivering a speech at the national conference next week.
Okay, what's the next word?
To hold.
Meaning to arrange and take part in a meeting or event. What can you tell us about this?
You can use this verb to talk about organizing an event or party. So if we say, John is holding a party,
It means that John is organizing the party.
You can use to hold in both informal and formal language, but there are some other verbs you can use informally. Actually, you probably use these verbs more often than hold.
What verbs are these?
You can say throw a party or have a party. Hold is used for more formal events.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure, for example, you can say, the company is holding a conference next week.
Which means the company is organizing a conference for next week. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions at, on, and in relation to place. We looked at these prepositions in lesson 1, but when talking about time.
Right. We learned that you use at for time, on for days, and in for months and periods of time.
But these 3 prepositions can also be used for place and location. I'm not sure if that's convenient or confusing.
Hopefully convenient.
Let's start by looking at in.
You can use in for enclosed spaces such as a room and also countries. In goes before the place, and sometimes we need an article.
So we would say, in the bedroom, or in France.
An example sentence is, he always sings in the car.
I'll give another example. I thought that I put my credit card in my wallet before I left home, but it isn't there.
Yeah, things such as a box, wallet, or bag are also enclosed spaces, so they need in.
Next, we'll look at.
We use at for a physical point. So if you're talking about meeting at the post office, it would mean that the post office is the meeting point. But that doesn't necessarily mean inside the post office.
If it was inside, we'd say in the post office.
That's right. We can say, there isn't an ATM at the train station.
Sometimes people may use in instead of at. This is because they're talking about being inside of the train station building. But if you stick to this rule and use at, you won't be wrong.
There is one big exception that we need to point out, though. We never say in home. It's always at home.
Right. He's studying in home sounds weird. We say he's studying at home.
Don't forget that one.
Finally, for this lesson is on.
We use on for surfaces, such as on the table or on the wall.
For example, the book is on the table. Or, are there any vegetarian dishes on the menu?
There is a big exception to this one, too, that often tricks people.
I think I know what you mean.
If you are on public transport like a bus or a train, you use on. For example, on the bus, on the train.
You might think that it should be in, as it's an enclosed space, but no, use on.
We also use on for riding animals and bikes.
Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
The national conference is tomorrow.
Yes, it will be held in New York.
Do you know where?
It's at the Sheraton Hotel.
The Sheraton on 7th Avenue?
Yes, that's it. Have you been there before?
I stayed there on vacation once. Deciding where to hang a painting by your favorite American artist. John here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions under, below, and beneath. The conversation takes place at home.
It's between Kate and Sean.
The speakers are friends, so they'll use informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation. Kate, where do you think I should hang this painting?
Try below the other painting on the south wall.
Oh, looks good. Have you seen my hammer?
I think it's under the table.
Really? I can't see it.
Maybe it's beneath that cloth?
Found it. Listen to the conversation one time slowly. Kate, where do you think I should hang this painting?
Try below the other painting on the south wall.
Oh, looks good. Have you seen my hammer?
I think it's under the table.
Really? I can't see it.
Maybe it's beneath that cloth.
Found it. Sounds like Sean has a new painting. I wonder if he painted it himself.
He might have. He might have bought it, though. The right painting can really brighten up a room.
That's true. I think in general, Americans are very proud of their homes and want them to look the best they can.
I think so, too. It helps that, compared to a lot of other countries, house prices aren't as high in the States, so people can buy really nice properties.
Many people buy houses and then fix them up themselves.
Oh, DIY, home improvements, fixer-uppers. That's always a disaster.
A disaster? I've always been able to do small jobs myself without any problems.
In my experience, if you need a job done, call in the professionals.
Please tell me that you at least do yard work yourself.
I do that myself. I find it relaxing.
Do you decorate your house for Halloween and Christmas?
Oh, I go all out. Lights, statues.
Me too. Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
To think.
to consider.
To think. To think.
Next we have
Painting.
artwork made with paint.
Painting. Painting.
Next we have
Other.
not this one, but a different one.
Other. Other.
Next we have
South.
direction opposite of north.
South. South.
Next we have
Wall.
a vertical structure that either divides a room or separates a room from the outside.
Wall. Wall.
Next we have
To look.
to appear, to seem.
To look. To look.
Next we have
Hammer.
a tool used for jobs such as hitting nails and breaking things.
Hammer. Hammer.
Next we have
Table.
a piece of furniture with a flat, level surface and legs upon which objects can be placed.
Table. Table.
Next we have
Maybe.
possibly, but not certainly, perhaps.
Maybe. Maybe.
And last,
Cloth.
fabric that is made from cotton, wool, or other materials.
Cloth. Cloth.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
To think.
meaning to consider. What can you tell us about this?
We use this verb to talk about our ideas.
The conjugations are irregular, as the past tense and the past participle are both thought.
This is a handy word. We can use it to clearly show our own ideas.
You can start sentences with I think or I think that, and people will know it's your own idea and feelings.
If you put it at the end of a sentence after giving advice or an opinion, it softens what you've said.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, I think it will rain later.
Which means, I feel that it will rain later. Okay, what's the next word?
Other.
Meaning, not this one, but a different one. What can you tell us about this?
You can use this when an object has been identified, but you want to talk about a different one.
So if you're in a shop and the clerk has two items, they show you the first item, but you want to see the second item, you can say, show me the other one.
Yes, other means the different item.
What if the second item isn't already there?
If you're shown the first item and want to see something else, anything else, you can use another.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure, for example, you can say, the other way is quicker.
Okay, what's the next word?
Maybe.
Meaning possibly, but not certainly, perhaps. What can you tell us about this?
This is an adverb. You use it when you aren't 100% sure of something.
You usually use it at the start or end of a sentence or clause.
It can also be a one-word answer.
If someone asks you a question and you don't want to say yes or no, you can say maybe.
If you're not certain, say maybe.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure, for example, you can say, maybe I will change jobs soon.
Which means, I might change jobs soon. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions under, below, and beneath. You can use these prepositions for place and position. I think that they're very easily confused.
Definitely. Their meanings are very similar, but they're different enough to be distinct.
Let's start with the first in our little list, under.
You use this to say something is lower than, directly below, or covered by something.
It's very commonly used for things like under the table.
Right. It's below the table and the table is covering it. It's also used when being covered by things that touch.
Can you give us an example of that?
Sure, he is wearing a shirt under his sweater. It's often used with clothes.
There are lots of idioms using under, too, such as under the weather. This means that you're feeling sick. Check out the lesson notes for more idioms using under.
What preposition is next on our list?
Next is below.
This is used for things that are lower than or not directly under something.
Let's hear an example.
We're painting the room and I want white walls, but with blue below this border.
It can also be used to talk about lower temperatures or height, right?
That's right. Like, the temperature is never below 0.
Our last preposition for this lesson is beneath.
This is more formal than under and below and can be used in place of either, really.
Can you give us some examples using beneath?
The cat lies beneath the window. Although we usually say, the cat lies under the window.
It sounds too formal for a simple sentence like that.
Right. It's grammatically correct, but too formal. We often use it for style, such as, there is a world of mystery beneath the covers of this book.
That sounds better than saying, under the covers of this book.
I agree. But be careful. You can substitute beneath for under and below, but not when talking about temperatures.
Thanks for the tip. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Kate, where do you think I should hang this painting?
Try below the other painting on the south wall.
Oh, looks good. Have you seen my hammer?
I think it's under the table.
Really? I can't see it.
Maybe it's beneath that cloth?
Found it. Getting ready for an American house party. John here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions over and above. The conversation takes place at home.
It's between Kate and Sean.
The speakers are friends, so they'll use informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
Is everything ready for the party?
Can you put the streamers up?
Where do you want them?
Above the window, please.
Okay. Is there anything else?
Can you cover the presents? Just put a sheet over them.
Yes, let's keep them as a surprise.
Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
Is everything ready for the party?
Nearly. Can you put the streamers up?
Where do you want them?
Above the window, please.
Okay. Is there anything else?
Can you cover the presents? Just put a sheet over them.
Yes. Let's keep them as a surprise.
It's party time.
Sounds like it. We didn't find out who in the conversation, but it's someone's birthday.
Birthday parties are really popular in the States.
That's right. It doesn't matter how old or young you are, everyone has parties.
What are children's parties like?
They're often held at special places like amusement parks, family restaurants, or children's centers.
Or at home, of course.
Of course. I had a few birthday parties at home when I was in school. My house was decorated, we played lots of games, and there was a clown.
I hate clowns.
Many people do. I can still remember the crying children.
I've been to a few birthday parties for adults that have been informal affairs held at bars or clubs.
Yeah, I've been to a few more formal ones that were house parties too. I love birthday parties, but it can be stressful to find the perfect birthday present.
Yeah, it's best to take a present with you, especially for kids' parties. Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
Everything.
all things.
Everything. Everything.
Next we have
Ready.
prepared to continue or move on.
Ready. Ready.
Next we have
Nearly.
close to.
Nearly. Nearly.
Next we have
To put up.
to place something on the wall or ceiling.
To put up. To put up.
Next we have
Streamers.
a long, thin party decoration usually made of colorful paper.
Streamers. Streamers.
Next we have
Window.
a glass opening in a wall that lets in light.
Window. Window.
Next we have
Where.
question starter, asking for the location of something.
Where. Where.
Next we have
Anything.
unspecific thing.
Anything. Anything.
Next we have
Else.
in a different way or place. Additionally.
Else. Else.
And last,
Surprise.
something unexpected.
Surprise. Surprise.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
Everything.
meaning all things. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a pronoun you use to cover all things in a category.
So, for example, if you're in a restaurant and your friend says that they want to eat everything,
They mean that they want to eat the entire menu, all the foods.
this can be used for any group of items.
You shouldn't use it for people, however. Instead, say everyone if you mean all people.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, Is everything finished?
Which means, are all of the tasks finished? Okay, what's the next word?
Anything.
Meaning unspecific thing. What can you tell us about this?
This is another pronoun and it is used for an unspecified thing in a category.
Let's go back to our restaurant. If your friend says that they want to eat anything,
It means that any dish on the menu would be okay. They have no preference.
again, it can be used for any group of items.
And again, it shouldn't be used for people. Instead, use anyone.
Can you give us an example using anything?
Sure. For example, you can say, I'll do anything you ask me to.
Which means, I'll do whatever you ask me to. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions over and above. We have two more prepositions to introduce in this lesson.
They are both prepositions of place and position. So let's look at them in turn.
First is over.
If we want to say that something is higher than, directly above, or is covering something, we should use over.
For example, over the table.
Yes. We can also use it for clothes and for age and speed.
Let's look at some examples.
An easy example is, the boy climbed over the wall.
Or, you must be over 18 years old to watch this movie.
I gave an example of using over to mean directly above, and John's example was of age.
There are a couple of idioms using over, aren't there?
Yes, my favorite is over the moon.
I like that one too. It means that you're really happy.
I won the lottery and am over the moon.
You would be if you won. The other preposition we're looking at this time is above.
If we want to say that something is higher than, but not directly above or not covering something, we would use above.
For example, above the line.
Listeners, try to remember above and below as a pair, as they have opposite meanings.
Sometimes it's easier to learn opposite words together.
I think so.
Let's have some examples now using above.
There is a bookshelf above the table.
We can also use above for temperature and height.
Yes, you might see instructions such as heat the oven to above 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
I like baking, so I see things like that all the time. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Is everything ready for the party?
Can you put the streamers up?
Where do you want them?
Above the window, please.
Okay, is there anything else?
Can you cover the presents? Just put a sheet over them.
Yes, let's keep them as a surprise.
Let's check out that new American bar. John here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions by, around, and near. The conversation takes place at work.
It's between Rachel and Sean.
The speakers are coworkers, so they'll use informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
I heard that a new bar is opening somewhere around the train station.
That's right. It should be near 6th Avenue.
Oh, there's an empty building near there. Is that it?
Where is it?
It's by the library.
I think that's it. Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
I heard that a new bar is opening somewhere around the train station.
That's right. It should be near 6th Avenue.
Oh, there's an empty building near there. Is that it?
Where is it?
It's by the library.
I think that's it. Bars are good places to socialize.
I think bars and clubs are the most popular places to meet friends in the evening.
If I meet my friends during the day, we usually just go to a coffee shop.
Me too. I usually hang out at a Starbucks.
What about meeting new people?
I've met people just by starting conversations in bars, but that can be a little difficult sometimes.
I've met new people by joining meetup groups.
Really? I hear groups like that are becoming popular. How did you find the group?
They advertise on Facebook, but there are websites too. It's a good way to find people with similar interests or to learn something new.
There are lots of groups for language learning, aren't there?
Yes, you can practice your English at one. Let's go together.
I don't really socialize with work colleagues.
Harsh. Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
To hear.
to perceive with the ears, to learn.
To hear. To hear.
Next we have
Bar.
A place to purchase and drink alcoholic beverages.
Bar. Bar.
Next we have
Somewhere.
some unspecified place.
Somewhere. Somewhere.
Next we have
Right.
correct, true.
Right. Right.
Next we have
Train.
a line of cars connected together and running on tracks used for the shipment of goods or transportation.
Train. Train.
Next we have
Should.
used to indicate responsibility.
Should. Should.
Next we have
Oh.
expression to show surprise, anger, or joy.
Oh. Oh.
Next we have
Empty.
no contents, nothing inside.
Empty. Empty.
Next we have
Building.
a structure with a roof and walls.
Building. Building.
And last,
Library.
a place where books are kept for use but not for sale.
Library. Library.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
Somewhere.
meaning some unspecified place. What can you tell us about this?
This is a pronoun. You use it to talk about a place that hasn't been decided or named.
For example, if you want to go on a vacation but you haven't decided where yet, you could say,
Somewhere in the mountains. This means that the actual location isn't decided yet. It just has to be around mountains.
You can also use this word for directions when you're not sure of the precise location.
Yes, an example of that is somewhere near the train station.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, I want to go somewhere hot for Christmas.
Which means, I want to go to a place that is hot for Christmas. Okay, what's the next word?
Right.
Meaning correct. What can you tell us about this?
This is an adjective. You use it to describe things that are correct. And of course, the opposite of right is wrong or incorrect.
Correct sounds more formal than right.
It does. Right has many meanings, such as direction, but correct doesn't.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, if he gives one more right answer, he will win the prize.
Okay, what's the next word?
Empty.
Meaning no contents, nothing inside. What can you tell us about this?
This can be used as an adjective to say that there is nothing inside a container.
It can be used for physical containers like a cup or a bag.
Yes, you can say empty cup or empty bag. You can also use it for words or gestures, too.
What does it mean in this case?
It means that the feelings aren't real. For example, an empty promise.
Can you give us one last example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, she drank until her glass was empty.
Which means she drank until her glass had nothing left in it. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions by, around, and near. Let's get started.
I like the positive attitude.
Thanks. First up is by.
This is for place and position. You can use it for things that are beside something.
Let's have some examples.
Put the couch by the wall. It can also be used for things that you keep in a handy position.
Like, I keep a pen by me.
Yes, you have a pen near you in case you need it. It's in easy reach.
Next is around,
You can use around to say that something is in the area.
such as, there are several convenience stores around the park.
Yes, that means that there are several convenience stores in the park area.
It can also be used to say that something is surrounding something.
Yes, such as, there is a fence around this building.
There's an idiom using around that I like.
Oh, what idiom is that?
Around the clock. The supermarket is open around the clock.
Yeah, that's a good one. It means all day and night. So in this case, the supermarket would be open 24 hours, all the way around the clock.
And finally for this lesson is near.
You use this for something that is close.
The restaurant is near the river.
Yes, this means that the restaurant is close to the river, but we're not being specific on how close it is.
What about the word nearby? Can you use that in place of near?
You might hear nearby in conversation, but that's actually wrong. Nearby is an adverb, so it shouldn't be used in that sentence.
I'll keep that in mind. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye! I heard that a new bar is opening somewhere around the train station.
That's right. It should be near 6th Avenue.
Oh, there's an empty building near there. Is that it?
Where is it?
It's by the library.
I think that's it. Is your dog missing in the United States? John here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions inside and into. The conversation takes place at home.
It's between Kate and Sean.
The speakers are friends, so they'll use informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
Have you seen Belle?
Who? Oh, that's your dog, isn't it?
That's right. I thought she was in her kennel, but she isn't.
I think I saw her go into the house earlier.
I'll check inside the house then. Thank you.
I hope you can find her. Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
Have you seen Belle?
Who? Oh, that's your dog, isn't it?
That's right. I thought she was in her kennel, but she isn't.
I think I saw her go into the house earlier.
I'll check inside the house then. Thank you.
I hope you can find her. I hope Kate found her dog.
I hope so too. America is a nation of animal lovers.
Yeah, lots of people have cats and dogs as pets.
You always see people walking their dogs early in the morning or at night. The park near where I grew up had an area just for you to take your dog.
That's cool. Did you have a pet dog?
Yeah, I did. We rescued him from the dog pound.
Lots of people get their dogs from the pound, right?
Yeah, getting dogs from breeders happens too.
Outside of big cities, you might find farms with many other types of animals, too.
Yeah, but no matter how big or small the animal is, it is important that you look after it correctly.
There are many organizations that look out for animal cruelty, so be sure to take care of any animals that you have. You can also report animals that you see being mistreated to these organizations.
As we said, America is a nation of animal lovers.
Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
To see.
to observe with the eyes.
To see. To see.
Next we have
Dog.
a domesticated animal that has 4 legs and barks.
Dog. Dog.
Next we have
Kennel.
a house for dogs.
Kennel. Kennel.
Next we have
But.
a word used to introduce a sentence or clause that contradicts some aspect of the preceding clause.
But. But.
Next we have
House.
A dwelling for a family.
House. House.
Next we have
Earlier.
a point of time before another.
Earlier. Earlier.
Next we have
To check.
to confirm, to look at.
To check. To check.
Next we have
To hope.
to have a desire that something will happen.
To hope. To hope.
And lastly,
To find.
to discover something.
To find. To find.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
But.
meaning a word used to introduce a sentence or clause that contradicts some aspect of the preceding clause. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a conjunction, so you use it to connect two sentences or clauses.
Specifically, two clauses or sentences that contradict each other.
Yes. Take the two sentences, it's summer and it's cold.
It usually isn't cold during the summer, so these two sentences contradict each other.
So if you want to join them, you can use but. For example, it's summer, but it's cold.
Can you give us another example using but?
Sure, you can say, she said she'd meet me at 2 p.m., but she's late.
Okay, what's the next word?
Earlier.
Meaning a point of time before another. What can you tell us about this?
This comes from the adjective early and is the comparative form.
That means we can use it to compare two things.
Yeah, we use it to say that one thing happened before another.
So if I say, I ate earlier,
It means that you ate at a time before now.
can you give us an example using this word?
For example, you can say, I watched the movie earlier.
Okay, what's the next word?
To hope.
Meaning to have a desire that something will happen. What can you tell us about this?
This is a verb. The conjugations are pretty regular. Just be careful with the E at the end when spelling it out. Hoping, for example, is spelled without an E.
You can use this to talk about what you want to happen.
Right. For example, I hope it will be sunny tomorrow.
That means, I would like it to be sunny tomorrow.
It is our wish and desire for it to be sunny.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, I hope to get married next year.
Which means, I would like to get married next year. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions inside and into. We have two prepositions that sound pretty similar.
They do. So listeners, pay attention to their usage and differences.
Let's start with inside.
This is used for place and position. We use it to say that something is in something else.
It has a feeling of being enclosed.
Right. We would use it for something like inside the box. Outside means the opposite.
Let's look at some examples.
I left my purse inside the house.
My car broke down inside the tunnel, so I'm waiting for a tow truck.
House and tunnel are both enclosed spaces, and in both examples, the object of the sentence is in the house or tunnel.
In a lot of cases, you can use in instead of inside.
That's right. You can say either the girl is in the car or the girl is inside the car.
One thing to remember, though, is that you can't use inside for countries and cities.
The White House is in Washington is correct, but the White House is inside Washington isn't.
A famous idiom using inside is inside job.
This is when a crime is committed and it's likely that someone working for the company helped. So you'll hear it in sentences like, the police think that the bank robbery was an inside job.
Meaning someone working at the bank must have helped. Our next preposition is into.
We use into for movement. It's used to talk about moving inside something.
This can be used for movement across countries and cities, too.
That's right. Shall we look at some examples?
I think we should.
I put my pen into my pencil case.
Although it was raining, he didn't go into the house.
After 2 weeks of cycling through Europe, We finally crossed the border into Italy.
That's a lot of cycling. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Have you seen Belle?
Who? Oh, that's your dog, isn't it?
That's right. I thought she was in her kennel, but she isn't.
I think I saw her go into the house earlier.
I'll check inside the house then. Thank you.
I hope you can find her. Finding a long-lost diary in the United States. John here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions between and among. The conversation takes place at work.
It's between Rachel and Sean.
The speakers are coworkers, and they will use both formal and informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
Oh, that's my diary. I've been looking for it everywhere. Where did you find it?
It was hidden among the files for the meeting later.
I must have left it there earlier.
Do you want me to put it on your desk?
Yes, please. Can you put it between those two books?
Sure. Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
Oh, that's my diary. I've been looking for it everywhere. Where did you find it?
It was hidden among the files for the meeting later.
I must have left it there earlier.
Do you want me to put it on your desk?
Yes, please. Can you put it between those two books?
Sure. Rachel was lucky to find her lost diary.
Yeah, she was lucky that she lost it at work.
What would happen if you lost something somewhere else?
I'd suggest retracing your steps and seeing if you could find it. Also, contact the authorities.
So if you've been on the train, contact the train company.
That's right. You can advertise your lost item if it's something of value.
I see posters for lost pets a lot.
Yeah, it's common to advertise a lost pet. If you do advertise, you can offer a reward, and that sometimes helps you get your item back.
What should you do if you find something?
Hand it in somewhere. Many public places have a lost and found office. Or you can give it to the police.
Is it likely that you'll get something back if you lose it?
I wouldn't count on it. I would advise not losing things in the first place.
Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
Diary.
a book where someone writes their memories and information on their day.
Diary. Diary.
Next we have
Everywhere.
all places.
Everywhere. Everywhere.
Next we have
To hide.
to stay out of sight.
To hide. To hide.
Next we have
Files.
a folder that keeps loose documents together.
Files. Files.
Next we have
Meeting.
a gathering of people, usually in order to discuss something.
Meeting. Meeting.
Next we have
Later.
at a time after another.
Later. Later.
Next we have
To leave.
to depart, to go away from.
To leave. To leave.
Next we have
Desk.
a table used for work.
Desk. Desk.
Next we have
Book.
a written text that often tells a story or gives information.
Book. Book.
And last,
Sure.
having no doubt about something.
Sure. Sure.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
Everywhere.
meaning all places. What can you tell us about this word?
Look at it as two separate words. Every, meaning all, and where, meaning place.
So, all places.
Yep. For example, if something is on sale and you can buy it everywhere, that means it's on sale across the country.
And probably in several different stores, too.
Everywhere can also be used to exaggerate. So you might hear someone saying something is happening everywhere when they really mean that it's happening in many places.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, I looked everywhere for my lost bag.
Which means I looked in all places for my lost bag. Okay, what's the next word?
Later.
Meaning at a time after another. What can you tell us about this?
You use this to describe a time period after another.
So if we say, see you later,
It means, I will see you again at a time after this.
can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, I will call you later.
Which means I will call you at a time after this. Okay, what's the next word?
Sure.
Meaning having no doubt. When do you use this word?
You can use this to say that you are certain of something.
You often hear it in a question like, are you sure?
Yes, you can say that phrase to double check that someone is certain.
It can also be used as an exclamation, right?
If we say, sure, it means something similar to yes. You're agreeing to something.
Can you give us another example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, I'm sure that he was here.
Which means I am certain that he was here. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions between and among. Let's start with the preposition between.
Between can be used in many ways, but all of them are related to the space in the middle of two things.
Okay, let's look in more detail about how it can be used.
It can be used for physical space in the middle of two objects.
Like, put the lamp between the table and the wall.
The time in the middle of two dates.
The beach is always busy between June to September.
The interval in the middle of 2 points on a scale.
Between 30% to 50% of applicants fail the exam.
To choose or show differences.
I can't choose between Canada, Mexico, and Hawaii for my summer vacation.
Between refers to the interval, so between June to September means June, July, August, and September.
Not just June and September.
There is a famous idiom using between a rock and a hard place.
That means to choose between two difficult situations, such as, the exam and the job interview are scheduled for the same time, so I can't do both. I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place.
That's right. What is the next preposition for this lesson?
The next and last is among.
This has several meanings too. It can mean to be surrounded by many things,
The dog ran among the flowers.
to belong to a group or a relationship,
The candy was shared evenly among the children.
or a choice or decision between three or more unspecified things.
He was the best choice among the candidates.
In every situation, among means that there are several things and gives an image of groups.
Thank you.
Listeners, make sure to check the lesson notes PDF to find more examples and additional information.
Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Oh, that's my diary. I've been looking for it everywhere. Where did you find it?
It was hidden among the files for the meeting later.
I must have left it there earlier.
Do you want me to put it on your desk?
Yes, please. Can you put it between those two books?
Sure. Where's the nearest post office in the United States? John here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions across and opposite. The conversation takes place at work.
It's between Rachel and Sean.
The speakers are coworkers, and they will use both formal and informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
Sean, can you take this package to the post office?
Where is it?
It's across the street.
Is it next to the bank?
No, it's opposite the pizza place.
Sure, I'll be back soon. Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
Sean, can you take this package to the post office?
Where is it?
It's across the street.
Is it next to the bank?
No, it's opposite the pizza place.
Sure. I'll be back soon. The United States Postal Service.
USPS delivers mail and packages across the country. If you need it to be delivered quickly or it's of special importance, you can pay extra for quicker shipping and tracking.
Regular post can be slow, and I've had so much mail never arrive.
Really? I've never had a problem with the mail service.
Never? I've received damaged packages too.
Honestly, I've never had a problem.
Yeah, I have friends that have had problems too, and then others that never have.
I guess it's just luck of the draw.
Maybe. If it's something important, these days I use a private courier service like FedEx or UPS.
They're more expensive.
But more reliable in my experience, at least.
Maybe you should tip your mailman so you don't get any more missed mail or damaged packages.
Maybe I should. Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
Can.
to be able to.
Can. Can.
Next we have
Package.
box or large envelope that is delivered.
Package. Package.
Next we have
Post office.
a building where postal services such as sending mail can be obtained.
Post office. Post office.
Next we have
Street.
a public road, usually with houses and buildings lining it.
Street. Street.
Next we have
Bank.
a business that offers financial services such as loans and accounts.
Bank. Bank.
Next we have
Pizza.
a food that originated in Italy and is usually a flat, round dough covered in various toppings.
Pizza. Pizza.
Next we have
Place.
location, room, or space.
Place. Place.
Next we have
Back.
to return to a previous place or position.
Back. Back.
And lastly,
Soon.
in or after a short time.
Soon. Soon.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
Can.
meaning to be able to. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a special class of verb called a modal verb.
You can use can to say that you have the ability to do something,
You often use it in questions such as, can you swim?
and also statements like I can swim.
You can also use it to give permission, as in, you can borrow my bike.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, I can juggle.
Which means I am able to juggle. Okay, what's the next word?
Post office.
Meaning a building where postal services such as sending mail can be obtained. What can you tell us about this?
There are two words. The first is post, which means mail or to send mail.
The second is office, which is a building or room used as a place of business.
So it's a place of business for mail.
As we heard earlier this lesson, in the U.S. it's called the U.S. Postal Service.
But informally, it can be called the post office or postal service.
Can you give us an example using this word?
For example, you can say, the letter was delivered by the post office.
Okay, what's the next word?
Place.
Meaning location, room, or space. How do you use the word place?
It's a general term for a specific location or space.
What do you mean by specific location?
For example, you can say, let's meet at the library. But if everyone knows that it will be the library, you can say, let's meet at that place instead.
You also hear things like his place or my place.
A possessive plus place usually means that person's home. So my place is the same as my home.
What's an example using this word?
You can say, we go to the same place every Friday.
Which means we go to the same location every Friday. Now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions across and opposite. Another two prepositions for this lesson.
We're getting through a lot of these in this series.
We are. So let's get going and start with across.
This is a preposition of movement or place. It can be used for moving from one side to another.
Like walked across the street.
When you use it for movement, there is usually a verb there, such as walk.
Or run or swim. Things like that.
Across can also be used for the position of something related to something else.
For example, across the road. Let's look at some sentence examples.
We walked across the street to the playground.
The science lab is across the hall.
There are a couple of idioms with across also.
Such as across the board.
This means that something is affecting everyone or everything.
For example, there will be job cuts across the board.
That means that every department in the company will be losing staff.
Another idiom is across the pond.
In this case, the pond is the Atlantic Ocean. So it means America and Europe. But because it's used a lot by British people, it often means England or the UK.
He is going on vacation across the pond.
If you say that in America, it means he's going on vacation in Europe, probably in the UK.
The next preposition is opposite.
This can be used to talk about position related to something else.
As in, there is a bus stop opposite the high school.
Or to say that two actors are in the same movie or TV show.
Jennifer Lawrence is starring opposite Leonardo DiCaprio.
Opposite sounds pretty similar to across, but you can't use opposite for movement. I walked opposite the street is wrong.
And Jennifer Lawrence is starring across Leonardo DiCaprio is wrong too. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Sean, can you take this package to the post office?
Where is it?
It's across the street.
Is it next to the bank?
No, it's opposite the pizza place.
Sure, I'll be back soon. Are you still looking for an American post office? John here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions next to and beside. The conversation takes place at work.
It's between Rachel and Sean.
The speakers are co-workers, and they will use both formal and informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
Did you mail that package, Sean?
I couldn't find the post office. It wasn't next to the bank.
I didn't say it was. Do you remember the Christmas party?
Last year's? Yes. It was at the Italian restaurant.
The post office is beside the restaurant.
I'll try again. Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
Did you mail that package, Sean?
I couldn't find the post office. It wasn't next to the bank.
I didn't say it was. Do you remember the Christmas party?
Last year's? Yes, it was at the Italian restaurant.
The post office is beside the restaurant.
I'll try again. Poor Sean. Sounds like he went to the totally wrong place.
He should have listened to Rachel.
Or at least remembered what was by the restaurant where they had their Christmas party.
Speaking of Christmas, that's a big event in the States every year.
Yeah, the Christmas season starts pretty much as soon as Thanksgiving is finished at the end of November.
Yeah, the annual Thanksgiving parade ends with an appearance from Santa. But sometimes, stores start stocking Christmas supplies as early as October.
Christmas dinner is a key event of the day, and it's usually marked by eating ham or turkey with cranberry sauce and many side dishes.
Too many side dishes, usually.
No such thing. At Christmas, we give each other presents. This is really the main event.
Yes, there's presents, and we decorate our homes, and sometimes outside our homes, too.
Many cities and towns decorate with lights and trees.
I love going to New York at Christmas to shop and ice skate at Rockefeller Center.
I don't think I could handle the crowds. Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
Did.
past tense of do, meaning to perform in action.
Did. Did.
Next we have
To mail.
to send something through the postal service.
To mail. To mail.
Next we have
Couldn't.
contraction of could not, meaning not possible.
Couldn't. Couldn't.
Next we have
Christmas.
the most important date on the Christian calendar, December 25th.
Christmas. Christmas.
Next we have
Party.
group of people.
Party. Party.
Next we have
Last.
final with nothing after.
Last. Last.
Next we have
Year.
a length of time equal to 52 weeks or 365 days. The length of time taken for the Earth to orbit the Sun.
Year. Year.
Next we have
Restaurant.
a business where people go to eat.
Restaurant. Restaurant.
And lastly,
Again.
an adverb indicating the repetition of an action.
Again. Again.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
Did.
meaning the past tense of do, meaning to perform an action. What can you tell us about this word?
It's used in sentences to talk about past actions and to also ask questions about past actions. You can also use it for emphasis in sentences when it isn't strictly needed.
Instead of saying, I studied, you could say, I did study.
The second sentence sounds more firm, as if you're highlighting the fact that you studied.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, Did you wash the car yesterday?
Which means, you washed the car yesterday, right? Okay, what's the next word?
Couldn't.
Meaning, contraction of could not, not possible. How do we use this?
Could not is the negative version of could, and also the negative past tense of can.
You use it to say that something wasn't possible in the past.
For example, you had a report to finish yesterday, but didn't do it.
I was very busy yesterday. I had no time.
You can say, I couldn't finish it yesterday, to show it wasn't possible.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, He couldn't pass the test.
which means he wasn't able to pass the test. Okay, what's the next word?
Christmas.
Meaning the most important date on the Christian calendar, December 25th.
We spoke about Christmas a little earlier in this lesson.
That's right. Christmas is an event in the Christian calendar that is celebrated in Christian countries.
The date is fixed as December 25th and never changes.
We give presents to our family and friends. Where does the word Christmas come from?
It comes from the two words Christ and Mass, as the holiday celebrates the birth of Jesus Christ.
Can you give us an example using this word?
For example, you can say, I'm going home for Christmas.
Which means I'm going home for the annual Christian event on December 25th. Okay, on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions next to and beside.
Let's get started.
All right, let's start with next to.
You can use this as a preposition of position and place. It means at the side of.
Such as, there's a post office next to the library.
That means that there is a post office at the side of the library.
Let's look at some more examples.
I'll wait next to the station.
My dream home is next to the ocean with its own private beach.
Be careful that you don't mix up next to with nearest to.
Can you tell us what the difference is?
Nearest to means the closest, but doesn't mean that the two places are side by side.
What does the gas station nearest the park mean?
It could mean that the gas station is next to the park, or it could be several blocks away. It's just closer than any other gas station.
Okay, the next preposition is beside.
This is also used as a preposition of position and place and means at the side of.
Isn't that what we said about next to?
Yes, it is. It means the same thing, only it's slightly more formal.
In regular conversation, you're more likely to hear next to.
That's right. Shall we look at some examples?
I think we should.
The exit is beside the counter.
Don't wait beside the wall. It's still wet with paint.
That last one is not only a good example, but useful advice too.
Yes, always be aware of wet paint. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Did you mail that package, Sean?
I couldn't find the post office. It wasn't next to the bank.
I didn't say it was. Do you remember the Christmas party?
Last year's? Yes. It was at the Italian restaurant.
The post office is beside the restaurant.
I'll try again. A chance meeting in the United States. John here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions to, toward, and towards. The conversation takes place in the street.
It's between Rachel and Sean.
The speakers are friends, so they'll use informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
Hi, Sean. It's unusual to see you in this neighborhood.
I'm visiting a new client.
Are you walking to their office?
Yes, it's toward the park.
Oh, I'm going to Starbucks, and that's also towards the park.
Let's walk together. Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
Hi, Sean. It's unusual to see you in this neighborhood.
I'm visiting a new client.
Are you walking to their office?
Yes, it's toward the park.
Oh, I'm going to Starbucks, and that's also towards the park.
Let's walk together. Rachel is off to Starbucks.
Coffee shops like Starbucks are very popular in the States.
I think that Starbucks is famous in many countries these days.
That's true, but it started out in Seattle, Washington in 1971.
And from there, it took over the world.
Sometimes it feels like that. But coffee shops are a great place to meet friends,
They're also a great place to study or get some work done.
and all while drinking coffee.
Each coffee shop or chain of coffee shops has its own signature drinks.
Right. You can also get things like frappuccinos, which are often low on coffee but high on sugar.
I'm not the biggest fan of coffee, so I usually get cocoa or tea.
Yeah, most coffee shops have a wide variety on the menu.
Okay, now on to the vocab. Let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
Unusual.
not common.
Unusual. Unusual.
Next we have
Neighborhood.
area where people live, usually having distinguishing characteristics.
Neighborhood. Neighborhood.
Next we have
To visit.
to go somewhere to see a thing or person.
To visit. To visit.
Next we have
New.
something fresh that has been created or born very recently.
New. New.
Next we have
Client.
customer.
Client. Client.
Next we have
To walk.
to move on foot by putting one foot in front of the other while always having one foot on the ground.
To walk. To walk.
Next we have
Office.
a place where people work, usually on computers.
Office. Office.
Next we have
Park.
area of land for recreational activities.
Park. Park.
And lastly,
Together.
with one another.
Together. Together.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
Unusual.
meaning not common. What can you tell us about this?
This is an adjective used to describe things that aren't common.
It comes from the word usual, which means common,
You can also make it into an adverb, unusually.
or a noun, unusualness.
It's really flexible.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, this heavy rain is unusual for summer.
Which means this heavy rain is not common for summer. Okay, what's the next word?
To visit.
Meaning to go somewhere to see a thing or person. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a verb, and it means that we're going somewhere with the intention of seeing something or someone.
The intention to see something is the key part.
Yes, it can be going to see a friend, going to a country to sightsee, anything.
There's also the noun visit.
You can say things like, I will pay her a visit soon.
Can you give us another example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, I visited the pyramids when I went to Egypt.
Which means I went to Egypt with the intention of seeing the pyramids. Okay, what's the next word?
Together.
Meaning with one another.
This means to be with someone else or something else.
You usually use it to describe people, but it can also be used for objects and concepts.
It can relate to two or many things.
Can you give us an example using this word?
For example, you can say, let's go to the park together.
Which means let's go to the park with one another. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions to, toward, and towards. There are 3 prepositions for this lesson, so let's jump right in with the first one, to.
This is used for movement and place. You use it to say where you are going.
You use to before the destination.
For example, I will walk to the library. As library is a common noun, it needs the article the.
Proper nouns generally don't need the article.
We are moving to Detroit next month.
Yes, good example.
Another example using to is my husband is changing jobs, so it means that we have to move to the countryside.
Or, I need to study, so I will go to the coffee shop.
Of course, only the second to in that sentence is being used as a preposition.
The next preposition is toward.
This is used for movement and is about the direction of the movement.
So it actually refers to the action of moving, not the end result.
Right. It puts emphasis on being on the way to somewhere, more so than arriving.
Can you give us an example?
He was walking toward work when the accident happened.
I was driving toward the station when my car broke down.
In both cases, the emphasis is that the event happened while on the way somewhere.
The last preposition is towards.
In modern English, toward and towards are interchangeable. Technically and historically, they aren't, but in modern usage, there is no difference. Overall, most Americans tend to use toward, so it's best to stick with that.
Let's have some examples with towards anyway.
Of course, the plane was heading towards San Francisco.
He was driving towards Dallas, but changed his mind and drove back. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Hi, Sean. It's unusual to see you in this neighborhood.
I'm visiting a new client.
Are you walking to their office?
Yes, it's toward the park.
Oh, I'm going to Starbucks, and that's also towards the park.
Let's walk together. Losing your way in the United States. John here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions along and through. The conversation takes place in a car.
It's between Rachel and Sean.
The speakers are coworkers, so they will use both formal and informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation. I'm driving to the second appointment, but I'm lost.
Where are you?
I'm driving along the interstate.
Go through the tunnel and drive for another few miles.
Can you check the exit that I need?
It's exit 2 for downtown.
Listen to the conversation one time slowly. I'm driving to the second appointment, but I'm lost.
Where are you?
I'm driving along the interstate.
Go through the tunnel and drive for another few miles.
Can you check the exit that I need?
It's exit 2 for downtown.
Sean was driving in this lesson, and it sounds like he was lost.
I hope he wasn't calling while driving.
I'm sure he wasn't.
Driving is very popular in the U.S. You have to be 16 to drive, but can get a learner's permit at an earlier age.
The age varies from state to state.
If you are a teenager, you might need to take a driver's ed class. But again, this also varies from state to state.
America is a huge country, so driving is a necessity in some places.
Yeah, it's hard to get around without a car.
Cities are connected by highways, and some interstates have toll charges, so you have to pay to use them.
But long journeys between states and lots of space means that the roads are big and wide.
And the cars are big and wide too.
That's right. Americans usually drive cars that are bigger than in a lot of other countries.
Okay, now on to the vocab. Let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
To drive.
to travel by car.
To drive. To drive.
Next, we have
second,
the number 2 item or person in a lineup.
second, second,
Next, we have
appointment,
a booking or reservation.
appointment, appointment,
Next, we have
interstate,
a network of fast roads that connects cities in the U.S.
interstate, interstate,
Next, we have
tunnel,
a passage that passes through or under things like water or a mountain.
tunnel, tunnel,
Next, we have
another,
one in addition.
another, another,
Next, we have
miles,
an imperial measure of distance equal to 1.6 kilometers.
miles, miles,
Next, we have
to check,
to confirm, to look at.
to check, to check,
And lastly,
exit,
leading road off the highway.
exit, exit.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
To drive.
meaning to travel by car. What can you tell us about this word?
This is the verb used for operating a car.
You can also use it with other vehicles such as trucks and trains.
But it shouldn't be used with two-wheeled vehicles such as bikes. You don't drive bikes, you ride bikes.
And also you use fly for planes and sail for boats.
Wow, so many verbs.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, I hate driving to work every morning.
Which means I hate operating a car to get to work every morning. Okay, what's the next word?
Appointment.
Meaning a booking or reservation. How do you use this word?
You can use this to describe an arrangement for a meeting, a visit for a service, or when meeting a person.
It's a slightly formal term.
Yes, you'd use it to describe meeting a person for business, but not meeting a friend for a coffee.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, Hello, I have an appointment with Mr. Cinder at 3 p.m.
Which means, hello, I have a previously arranged meeting with Mr. Cinder at 3 p.m. Okay, what's the next word?
To check.
Meaning to confirm, to look at. What can you tell us about this word?
You use this verb when you want to confirm that some information is correct.
Check can also be a noun.
That's right. It can mean an exam or test to confirm the quality or condition of some content.
Like a health check.
Or quality check.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, Before we leave, I want to check that I have everything.
Which means, before we leave, I want to confirm that I have everything. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions along and through. First up for this lesson is along. You can use it for moving down something that is long and open.
Such as a road or line.
Let's hear some examples.
We walked along the river.
There are many stores along the avenue.
The marathon was tough, so he was glad for the many water stations along the route.
Are there any idioms with along?
Yes, there is along the way.
How do you use this?
You use this for an action that happens during the time you're doing something else.
For example, I've lived here for 30 years and have made some good friends along the way.
That means that during the time of living there, he's made good friends.
Okay, let's move on to through.
This is also a preposition of movement, but you use it for moving down things that are enclosed.
So, it's things that have walls and a roof, such as a tunnel.
It can also be used for 3D environments, such as a jungle.
Let's hear some examples.
The train passed through the tunnel.
He ran through the rain.
In that case, we're treating rain as a 3D environment as it surrounds you from the sides and above.
Any idioms for this?
You can say through the roof to mean something that is at a very high level. It's often used for things that are too expensive.
I bought this for $10, but now the price is through the roof. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
I'm driving to the second appointment, but I'm lost.
Where are you?
I'm driving along the interstate.
Go through the tunnel and drive for another few miles.
Can you check the exit that I need?
It's exit 2 for downtown.
The American traffic jam to end all traffic jams. John here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions for and since. The conversation takes place in a car.
It's between Rachel and Sean.
The speakers are coworkers, and they'll use both formal and informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
Hi, Sean. Have you made it to your destination yet?
No, I've been in a traffic jam for 3 hours.
Really?
Yes, I've been here since 1 p.m.
You will be late for the appointment.
I called the client and apologized. Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
Hi, Sean. Have you made it to your destination yet?
No, I've been in a traffic jam for 3 hours.
Really?
Yes, I've been here since 1 p.m.
You will be late for the appointment.
I called the client and apologized. Wow, that sounds like a crazy traffic jam.
Yeah, 3 hours. I'd be going crazy.
And it'll make Sean late for his appointment, but at least he called ahead and apologized.
That's the right thing to do. If you get something wrong or cause offense, then apologize.
I think that people can be forgiving if it's an honest mistake and your apology is sincere.
I think so too. Fake apologies can make the situation worse, though. So make sure you mean what you're saying.
You should apologize even if your actions aren't intentional.
Like Sean in the traffic jam. He didn't mean to be late, but he is, so he should apologize.
Apologizing is easy. You can just say, I'm sorry for, or I apologize for, and then fill in the blank as to why you're sorry.
Or you can say, I'm sorry for causing you trouble.
Yes, that's a good phrase that works in many situations.
Or, I apologize for upsetting you.
Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
To make.
to arrive at a place or time.
To make. To make.
Next we have
Destination.
the place that you're going to.
Destination. Destination.
Next we have
Yet.
up until a certain time.
Yet. Yet.
Next we have
Traffic.
vehicles driving on the road around the same area.
Traffic. Traffic.
Next we have
Jam.
things that are stuck.
Jam. Jam.
Next we have
Hour.
a period of 60 minutes.
Hour. Hour.
Next we have
Really.
truly, in actual fact.
Really. Really.
Next we have
Late.
recently over the last few days.
Late. Late.
And lastly,
To apologize.
to say that you are sorry for a mistake or incident.
To apologize. To apologize.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first phrase is
Traffic jam.
meaning the situation of having too many cars on the same road, making movement slow or difficult. What can you tell us about this word?
This phrase has two words. The first word is traffic, which means the vehicles traveling down a road.
The second word is jam, which in this case means things that are stuck.
So it literally means vehicles stuck on a road.
This is usually due to a traffic accident or too many cars on the road.
You can use jam to describe other things that are stuck, such as a paper jam in a printer.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, if we leave at 5 a.m., we can avoid any traffic jams.
Okay, what's the next word?
To apologize.
Meaning to say that you are sorry for a mistake or incident. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a verb. We talked about this a lot earlier this lesson.
That's right. It means to say that you are sorry.
There is also the noun apology.
He owes you an apology.
Good example.
Can you give us an example using apologize?
Sure. For example, you can say, she apologized for being late, but we had already missed the bus.
Which means she said she was sorry for being late, but we had already missed the bus. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions for and since. Two more prepositions for this lesson.
Shall we jump straight in?
I think we should. The first preposition is for.
This is a preposition of time. We use this to say how long something has lasted.
It is used for a period of time, such as for 3 hours.
An example sentence is, I have been waiting for 1 hour.
That means that for 1 hour, she's been sitting there waiting.
So rude to keep me waiting.
It is. Another example is, he worked at the company for 10 years before finally being promoted.
And here's one last example. I was in Canada for 1 year.
Let's move on to the next preposition, since.
Since is also a preposition of time. It's used to say when an action started.
So you don't use it with a period of time, but a point in time.
For example, since this morning or since yesterday or since 2002.
Sentences using since are usually in the present perfect or past perfect tenses.
Right. Let's look at some examples.
I haven't slept since yesterday.
I've studied English since last year.
I've been waiting for a phone call since Tuesday.
Do you want to hear an idiom with since?
Yes, please.
You might hear the idiom, greatest thing since sliced bread.
What does that mean?
It means a great thing, a great innovation.
An example is, 3D printers are the greatest thing since sliced bread. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Hi, Sean. Have you made it to your destination yet?
No, I've been in a traffic jam for 3 hours.
Really?
Yes, I've been here since 1 p.m.
You will be late for the appointment.
I called the client and apologized. Will your stomach interrupt this American show? John here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions before, after, and during. The conversation takes place at home.
It's between Kate and Sean.
The speakers are friends, so they will use informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
I have tickets for a play tomorrow evening. Do you want to come?
Sure, what time does it start?
It starts at 6 p.m. Should we get something to eat before the show?
I have work, so I won't have time. We can eat after.
Okay. I hope my stomach doesn't start growling during the show.
Maybe you should eat a snack. Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
I have tickets for a play tomorrow evening. Do you want to come?
Sure. What time does it start?
It starts at 6 p.m. Should we get something to eat before the show?
I have work, so I won't have time. We can eat after.
Okay. I hope my stomach doesn't start growling during the show.
Maybe you should eat a snack. Kate and Sean are trying to work out plans for a night out.
I wonder what play they're going to see.
I hope it's a good one. What's a typical plan for a night out in the States?
I think the most popular places are bars, restaurants, and clubs.
Yeah, they're great places to socialize. There's so many of them and you don't need to buy tickets.
Some restaurants might need a reservation.
I guess going to a play, concert, or musical is less common and more of a special occasion.
For most people, yes. Another popular evening out is going to a sports game.
Yeah, there's plenty of sports to watch and play after work.
It's good to see families out together in the evenings.
You'll also see groups of friends or couples out too.
Whoever you want to go with and whatever you want to do, you can do it in America.
Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
Ticket.
a piece of paper that allows you entry to an attraction or event.
Ticket. Ticket.
Next we have
Evening.
the time of day after 6 or 7 o'clock, but before night.
Evening. Evening.
Next we have
To come.
to move or go towards a place near the speaker.
To come. To come.
Next we have
Time.
a moment measured in hours and minutes.
Time. Time.
Next we have
Start.
to begin doing something.
Start. Start.
Next we have
Something.
a thing that isn't specified or is unknown.
Something. Something.
Next we have
To eat.
to consume food.
To eat. To eat.
Next we have
Show.
a play, stage performance, or concert.
Show. Show.
Next we have
Stomach.
an internal organ where food is digested.
Stomach. Stomach.
And last,
Growl.
a low sound an animal makes when threatened.
Growl. Growl.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
Evening.
meaning the time of day after 6 or 7 o'clock, but before night. What can you tell us about this word, Becky?
Well, John, we can split the day into 4 broad categories: morning, afternoon, evening, and night.
With evening being that time starting around 6 or 7 o'clock and running until...
There's not really a set time, maybe around 9 or 10, but you can hear it being used until later than that.
And there's a greeting too. Good evening.
Yeah, sometimes you'll hear that at night, as saying goodnight sounds much more like a goodbye than a greeting.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, I study English every evening.
Which means I study English every day after 6 p.m., but before nighttime. Okay, what's the next word?
Something.
meaning a thing that isn't specified or is unknown. That's a pretty non-specific definition. Can you tell us more about this word?
Something is a pronoun, and you can use it in the same way you'd use a noun.
What is it used for?
If you want to eat, but don't know what, you can say, I want to eat something.
So you're not specifying what you want.
And it fits into the sentence like a noun would. I want to eat pizza.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, my throat is dry. I need something to drink.
Okay, what's the next word?
Show.
Meaning a staged performance. What can you tell us about this?
You can use show to mean a play, concert, musical.
Anything that is staged.
Yes, you often hear people say, enjoy the show, instead of enjoy the concert, for example.
And there's that famous idiom, the show must go on.
That's right. That means that even if there are problems, you must carry on.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, the show was amazing.
Which means the performance was amazing. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions before, after, and during. We have 3 more prepositions to knock down in this lesson.
So let's get started.
Okay, first on our list is before.
This is a preposition of time. It's used for order to say that one thing happened earlier than something else.
Let's take an example. At 5:30, I will study. At 6 p.m., I will have dinner. How would we use before in this situation?
We can say, before I have dinner, I will study. Or, I will study before I have dinner. Either pattern is fine.
The important part is before I have dinner.
Yes, that little clause shows that dinner is the second of the 2 actions.
Let's hear another example.
The essay must be submitted before Tuesday. Here, it isn't an action, but a time, before Tuesday.
Now let's look at after.
We use after to say that one thing will happen later than something else. It's the opposite of before.
Let's take the same example we used earlier. At 5:30, I will study. At 6 p.m., I will have dinner.
After I study, I will have dinner. I will have dinner after I study.
Here, the important part is after I study.
It shows that study is the first of the 2 actions.
Do you have another example using after?
Always. I always drink water after running.
And finally for this lesson is during.
We use during to say something is happening within a period of time. This can't be used with verbs, only nouns.
Back to our example again. This time, I'll eat dinner from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And at 5:30, I'll study.
We can say, during dinner, I will study. Or, I will study during dinner.
Again, the important part is during dinner.
This shows that dinner is the longer period of time, and it is a noun.
Can you give us another example?
Everyone was silent during the movie.
Listeners, make sure to check the lesson notes PDF for more examples and information about these prepositions. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. I have tickets for a play tomorrow evening. Do you want to come?
Sure, what time does it start?
It starts at 6 p.m. Should we get something to eat before the show?
I have work, so I won't have time. We can eat after.
Okay. I hope my stomach doesn't start growling during the show.
Maybe you should eat a snack. Deciding what to eat at an American restaurant. John here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions from and until. The conversation takes place at a restaurant.
It's between Kate and Sean.
The speakers are friends, so they will use informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
This restaurant is highly recommended.
Yes, my friend suggested the lunch buffet.
Oh, that is served from 11:30.
but only until 2 p.m.
Really? It's 1 p.m. now. We should hurry up and decide.
The buffet sounds good to me. Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
This restaurant is highly recommended.
Yes, my friend suggested the lunch buffet,
Oh, that is served from 11:30.
but only until 2 p.m.
Really? It's 1 p.m. now. We should hurry up and decide.
The buffet sounds good to me. A buffet lunch sounds good right now.
Are you hungry, John?
Yeah, after this lesson is finished, we should all go out for dinner. What types of restaurants are there in the US?
Americans love eating out, so there are many types of restaurants to choose from. It can differ from state to state, though.
I heard that Mexican food is popular, especially in the states near the Mexican border or with a large number of Mexican immigrants.
That's right. I love Mexican food.
Me too. Something else I heard about the US is that you have to tip.
There's no law, but it's socially expected of you to tip.
How much should we tip?
Staff in restaurants are often low paid and rely on tips to top up their wages. The typical amount is 15 to 20%.
Wow, so much? Do you have to work that out yourself?
Usually, although some restaurants might do it for you.
Right. I'll take extra cash for the tip then. Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
Highly.
to a high degree or level.
Highly. Highly.
Next we have
To recommend.
to endorse, to speak well of, to suggest.
To recommend. To recommend.
Next we have
To suggest.
to provide an alternative.
To suggest. To suggest.
Next we have
Friend.
a person whose company you enjoy.
Friend. Friend.
Next we have
Lunch.
a meal eaten in the middle of the day.
Lunch. Lunch.
Next we have
Buffet.
a style of eating where numerous dishes are offered and can be freely chosen.
Buffet. Buffet.
Next we have
To serve.
to help, to attend to work for.
To serve. To serve.
Next we have
Only.
solely, there's nothing else.
Only. Only.
And lastly,
To hurry.
to move quickly, to rush something.
To hurry. To hurry.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
Highly.
meaning to a high degree or level. What can you tell us about this word?
This comes from the word high and is an adverb.
How do you use it?
You can use it to mean particularly well.
So, we can say that this restaurant is highly recommended.
Yes, that means that many people recommend it and say that it is really good.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, his new single ranked highly on the charts.
Which means his new single placed at a high spot in the charts. Okay, what's the next word?
To recommend.
Meaning to endorse, to speak well of, to suggest. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a verb, and you will hear it a lot when you're talking about food.
Why is that?
It's a good verb to remember when you want a suggestion for what to eat.
You can ask the waiter, "What do you recommend?"
There is also a related noun, recommendation.
Can you give us an example using the verb to recommend?
For example, you can say, I recommend the steak.
Which means, I suggest the steak as I think it's very good. Okay, what's the next word?
To suggest.
Meaning, to provide an alternative. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a verb. There's also a related noun, suggestion.
How do you use this?
To suggest and to recommend can be used in similar ways, but they are different.
How are they different?
With to recommend, you're stating your personal opinion or preference, as in, you should try this because I think it is good. But to suggest doesn't mean that you like it. You might just think it's best for the situation.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, I suggest that we meet at 3 p.m.
Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions from and until. Let's start with the preposition from.
You can use from in a couple of different ways. We will look at it again in Lesson 15.
How is it being used in this lesson?
In this lesson, we're looking at from as a preposition of time.
You can use it to talk about when something starts.
Yes, it usually goes before a time expression, such as from 10 a.m., from Tuesday, things like that.
Okay, let's look at some example sentences.
I am free from 9 a.m.
So, the free time starts at 9 a.m.
He will attend the other class from Tuesday.
So, he starts to attend the other class on Tuesday and will continue to do so after.
It's important to remember that we use from to emphasize the starting point and can use it for things in the future.
The library will be open from next year.
Make sure not to confuse from with the preposition since. We can't use since this way. Since is for things that started in the past and continue on.
For example, the library will be open since next year is wrong.
But the library has been open since last year is correct.
Now, let's move on to until.
You use until to talk about the time something will finish.
Again, it's used with time expressions, so until 10 p.m. or until Wednesday.
An example is, he slept until 9 a.m.
This means he was asleep and then he woke up at 9 a.m.
The mountain is closed until June.
The mountain is closed now, and people won't be able to visit until June.
I want to teach an idiom using until that can be very sweet.
Sweet? What do you mean?
There is the idiom until the end of time. It means always or forever. So if you say to someone, I will love you until the end of time,
It means that you will love them forever. That is kind of sweet. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
bye. This restaurant is highly recommended.
Yes, my friend suggested the lunch buffet,
Oh, that is served from 11:30.
but only until 2 p.m.
Really? It's 1 p.m. now. We should hurry up and decide.
The buffet sounds good to me. Who's your favorite American singer? John here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions from and by. The conversation takes place at home.
It's between Kate and Sean.
The speakers are friends, so they will use informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation. Hey Kate, what are you listening to?
I'm listening to the new CD by Taylor Swift.
I didn't know that was out yet.
I got it from iTunes this morning.
Is it good?
I like it. I want to see her when she tours next.
Listen to the conversation one time slowly. Hey Kate, what are you listening to?
I'm listening to the new CD by Taylor Swift.
I didn't know that was out yet.
I got it from iTunes this morning.
Is it good?
I like it. I want to see her when she tours next.
Becky, do you like Taylor Swift?
Honestly? No, I don't. She's not really my style.
Whether you like Taylor Swift or not, music is big business in America, isn't it?
Yes, the US is the biggest music market in the world.
Kate bought Taylor's album from iTunes. Downloading music is really popular now, right?
Yeah, most people don't buy CDs anymore. I don't download music though. I listen to everything on Spotify.
That's a great service. You can just stream anything you want to listen to.
Another good thing about being a music lover in America is that all of the major artists come here when they tour.
The big cities in the States always get the big tours. But what do people do if they don't live in a big city?
Well, the US is really big. It's not uncommon for people to drive 5 hours to the nearest big city to see a concert and then spend the night at a hotel.
Wow, that's dedication.
I know, but you could also travel to Sin City to see a concert. Many artists have residencies in Las Vegas, like Britney Spears and Celine Dion.
So many famous artists are American too.
Right. There are many artists covering many styles, from Elvis Presley to Michael Jackson to Bon Jovi.
Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
Hey,
hello.
hey, hey.
Next we have
To listen,
to give attention to a sound.
to listen, to listen.
Next we have
CD,
a compact disc, a device for storing music, an album.
CD, CD.
Next we have
Out,
made public, released.
out, out.
Next we have
Morning,
the period of time early in the day, after the night and before midday.
morning, morning.
Next we have
Good,
great, positive.
good, good.
Next we have
Like,
to enjoy, being similar to, meaningless speech filler.
like, like.
Next we have
To tour,
when an artist performs concerts in many different places.
to tour, to tour.
And lastly,
Next,
immediately after something in a sequence.
next, next.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
To listen.
meaning to give attention to a sound. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a verb and it conjugates regularly.
How do you use it?
You can use it to describe the act of hearing and paying attention to a sound.
It's an active action.
Yes, you usually use it to talk about hearing music or people talk.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, I always listen to music in the car.
Okay, what's the next word?
Morning.
Meaning the period of time early in the day, after the night, and before midday. When should we use this word?
We discussed evening in a previous lesson. Morning is a similar word and starts around the time the sun rises.
But the time is not set in stone, though. In winter, when the sun rises later, we would still consider 6 a.m. to be the morning, just like we would in the summer.
That's right. We usually consider morning to run until midday.
Can you give us an example using morning?
Sure. For example, you can say, I drive to work every morning.
Okay, what's the next word?
To tour.
meaning when an artist performs concerts in many different places. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a verb.
It's used for an artist or any kind of entertainer that takes their show on the road.
It can also be used for sports teams that play a series of games in different places.
There is also the noun tour.
That's right. We can say that an artist is on tour to say that they are currently traveling around and doing shows.
Can you give us an example using tour as a verb?
Sure. For example, you can say, my favorite artist toured last year.
Which means, my favorite artist played shows in different cities last year. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions from and by. We introduced from in the last lesson, but this is a totally different use of it.
That's right. Last time we spoke about from in regards to time. In this lesson, it's used to show the origin of something.
So, where something comes from, or what it was made from.
You're already using from in the explanations.
I can't help it. It's just such a useful word.
An example is, I received a letter from home.
This means that the letter received was written by someone at home. Home is where it came from.
Another example is, I want to see the new movie from Disney.
The movie was made by Disney and it was produced at their studio, so it comes from Disney.
Last one. I wasn't expecting such an expensive gift from my sister.
Who bought the gift? Her sister did. It is from her sister.
That's right. What is the next preposition?
The next one is by.
By is also used for origin, but it's used for the agent.
The person or company or whatever created it.
You don't use by for a place. You have to use from.
And by is preferred in passive sentences.
It's easy to confuse from and by, but hopefully a few more examples will help.
Yes, so let's have the examples.
This was cooked by him.
The agent that cooked it was him.
This furniture was made by a carpenter.
The person that made the furniture was a carpenter.
I don't have a favorite book, but I love every book by Stephen King.
Stephen King writes the books, so they are created by him. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye!
Hey, Kate, what are you listening to?
I'm listening to the new CD by Taylor Swift.
I didn't know that was out yet.
I got it from iTunes this morning.
Is it good?
I like it. I want to see her when she tours next.
Making plans for a Friday night in the United States. Eric here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions till, until, and past. The conversation takes place at home.
It's between Kate and Sean.
The speakers are friends, so they will use informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
What time do you finish work on Saturday?
I have to work until 5 p.m. I can't work past 5 p.m. as the office will close.
Do you want to meet at the bar past Fifth Avenue?
I might be busy, but I won't know for certain till Thursday.
Text me when you know.
Sure.
Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
What time do you finish work on Saturday?
I have to work until 5 p.m. I can't work past 5 p.m. as the office will close.
Do you want to meet at the bar past Fifth Avenue?
I might be busy, but I won't know for certain until Thursday.
Text me when you know.
Sure.
Kate and Sean are trying to arrange going out on Saturday.
It sounded a little difficult, though, as Sean didn't know his schedule.
Yes, Kate asked him to text when he knew.
Texting is really convenient, isn't it?
It is. It's so easy to send a message to someone, and you don't have to worry about whether they're busy at the moment because they can read it whenever they're free.
Cell phones are very popular in the US, especially Androids and the iPhone.
Is that how people usually contact each other?
Yeah, the average American sends and receives 32 texts a day. There are messaging apps, but they aren't as popular as in some other countries.
Other than Facebook Messenger?
Yeah, Facebook is still popular.
Do many people have landlines these days?
I don't think so. More calls are probably placed via Skype, especially with young people.
Interesting. Let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
To finish.
to complete, to end.
To finish. To finish.
Next we have
Saturday.
the day of the week after Friday but before Sunday.
Saturday. Saturday.
Next we have
To close.
to shut, for a store to stop service.
To close. To close.
Next we have
Busy.
full of activity, engaged in activity, occupied.
Busy. Busy.
Next we have
Certain.
to be sure.
Certain. Certain.
Next we have
Thursday.
the day of the week after Wednesday but before Friday.
Thursday. Thursday.
Next we have
To text.
to send an SMS message via a mobile phone.
To text. To text.
And last,
When.
used for time.
When. When.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
Busy.
meaning full of activity, engaged in activity, occupied. What can you tell us about this word?
This is an adjective.
How is it used?
It can be used to describe a situation when we are occupied. It can also be a convenient excuse.
What do you mean by that?
If you've been invited somewhere but don't want to go, you can just say, I'm busy, and it usually won't be questioned any further.
Good to know. Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, I'm really busy this week with all the work I have to do.
Which means I am occupied and have little free time due to all the work I have to do. Okay, what's the next word?
Certain.
Meaning to be sure. What can you tell us about this word, Becky?
This is another adjective.
How do you use it?
It's similar to sure, and you can use it to say that you are sure of something. You often hear it in sentences starting, I'm certain that.
Is it a formal or informal word?
It can be both. In informal situations, you can also use sure.
Can you give us an example using certain?
Sure. For example, you can say, I'm certain that I've read this book before.
Okay, what's the next word?
To text.
Meaning to send a message via a cell phone.
We heard this word in the conversation and spoke about it earlier, too.
Right, it's a verb you use for cell phone communication.
It can also be a noun, as the message we receive or send is called a text message.
So, Sean will text Kate a text?
Well, you're technically correct, but an American would never say this sentence. We would say, Sean will text Kate, or Sean will send Kate a text. The only thing we text are texts. So, text a text sounds strange.
Well, can you give us one last example using text?
Sure, for example, you can say, I'll text you when I get home.
Which means I'll send you a message via cell phone when I get home. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions until, till, and past. We have 3 to discuss in this lesson, so let's jump right in. Our first preposition is until.
This is a preposition of time. It is used to say an action is occurring up to the time or place specified.
Can it only be used for time or place?
Yes, but you can't use it for distance.
Let's hear an example.
I will study until 9 p.m.
This means that she will study and continue studying. She will stop studying when it is 9 p.m.
Another example is, don't open your present until your birthday.
The person might have their present already, but they shouldn't open it before their birthday.
I'll give you one more sentence. The bus won't stop until New York.
Wait, I thought you said this couldn't be used for distance.
It can't. The sentence isn't talking about the distance to New York. It's talking about the action of arriving in New York.
It's the same as saying, the bus won't stop until it arrives in New York.
Yes, just quicker.
Next is till.
We can cover this one quickly. It means exactly the same as until, only it is less formal. Sometimes you'll hear it in formal poetry, however.
This is when the poet wants to keep the rhythm, right?
Exactly.
The final preposition is past.
We use this as a preposition of time to mean after the time or after a place.
Can you give us an example?
Don't stay up past midnight.
This means go to bed by midnight. Don't still be awake after midnight.
Or he drove past the store.
He didn't stop at the store. He kept on driving further.
Listeners, don't forget to check the lesson notes PDF to reinforce what you just learned.
Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. What time do you finish work on Saturday?
I have to work until 5 p.m. I can't work past 5 p.m. as the office will close.
Do you want to meet at the bar past Fifth Avenue?
I might be busy, but I won't know for certain till Thursday.
Text me when you know.
Sure.
Make sure you don't miss any important American meetings. Eric here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions behind and beyond. The conversation takes place at work.
It's between Rachel and Sean.
The speakers are coworkers, and they will use both formal and informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
Have you seen the updated meeting calendar for this year?
No, I haven't.
The old calendar doesn't go beyond April, but I need to attend my daughter's graduation in June.
Hopefully there aren't any important meetings that day.
I hope not.
Maybe Mr. Anderson has a copy on his desk. Check behind his PC monitor.
Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
Have you seen the updated meeting calendar for this year?
No, I haven't.
The old calendar doesn't go beyond April, but I need to attend my daughter's graduation in June.
Hopefully there aren't any important meetings that day.
I hope not.
Maybe Mr. Anderson has a copy on his desk. Check behind his PC monitor.
I hope Rachel can attend the graduation ceremony.
Me too. That's such an important day for students.
What is the school system like in America? When do children generally start school?
Most kids start around 5 or 6 years old by going to kindergarten, although some start older.
After kindergarten is elementary school, right?
Yes, children usually spend 5 years there before going to middle school or junior high school.
And then high school starts in 9th grade and goes until 12th grade.
Each year in high school has a special name. The first year for children aged 14 to 15 is called freshman year. The second year for children aged 15 to 16 is called sophomore year. Then it's junior year, and finally senior year for 17 to 18-year-olds. Education after that is optional.
What about graduation ceremonies?
At the end of senior year, if your grades are high enough, you graduate high school and receive a high school diploma.
Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
To update,
to bring up to date, to make current.
to update, to update.
Next we have
Calendar,
a system for dividing the parts of a year, or a chart that shows these divisions.
calendar, calendar.
Next we have
April,
a month of the year after March but before May.
April, April.
Next we have
To need,
to be in a state or condition that requires something.
to need, to need.
Next we have
Daughter,
a female child.
daughter, daughter.
Next we have
Graduation,
to receive a diploma or degree upon completing school.
graduation, graduation.
Next we have
Hopefully,
in a hopeful, expectant way.
hopefully, hopefully.
Next we have
Important,
of great significance.
important, important.
And lastly,
To check,
to confirm, to look at.
to check, to check.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
To update,
meaning to bring up to date, to make current. What can you tell us about this word?
this is a verb. It's often used to say that things such as documents or news have been brought up to date.
You also hear it a lot with computers and technology.
If you install a new version of some software, you have updated the program.
There's also a noun, update.
We can also say that something is up to date, or the act of bringing something up to date.
Can you give us another example using update as a verb?
Sure, for example, you can say, the computer updated overnight.
Which means the computer upgraded to the latest version overnight. Okay, what's the next word?
Daughter.
Meaning a female child. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a noun. If you have a child and it is a girl, then she is your daughter.
If the child is a boy, then he is your son.
There is also stepdaughter. This is a child that isn't your blood relative, but is the daughter of your partner.
And a daughter-in-law is a girl that is married to your child.
And finally, a granddaughter is the daughter of one of your children.
Can you give us an example using the word daughter?
Sure. For example, you can say, he has 3 daughters.
Okay, what's the next word?
Important.
Meaning of great significance. How do you use this word?
This is an adjective. You can use it to describe something of great value, or something that you think has great value.
It's easy to say that something isn't of importance.
Just add un to the start. Unimportant.
A common phrase that uses important is VIP.
This stands for very important person.
Can you give us an example using important?
Sure. For example, you can say, it is very important that this work is finished today.
which means it is essential and of great significance that this work is finished today. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions behind and beyond. Just 2 new prepositions for this lesson.
Yes, but they're important ones.
In that case, let's get started. The first preposition is behind.
This is a preposition of place. It's used to say that something is at the back of something else.
Can you give us an example?
The pen is behind the TV.
Imagine there's a TV. At the back of the TV is a pen.
You probably wouldn't be able to see the pen if it was behind the TV.
Probably not. TVs are much bigger than pens. Can we have another example?
The library is behind the supermarket.
At the back of the supermarket is the library.
Note the sentence structure. The thing that is furthest back comes first.
We can also use behind to say that things are running later than expected.
Yes, we can say the train is running behind schedule.
So there's a schedule, but the train is late. It is behind the time on the schedule.
You can also use behind for showing support. For example, the entire town was behind the football team.
This means the entire town was supporting the football team. The next preposition is beyond.
This is another preposition of place. It's very similar to past, which we learned in a previous lesson.
So how do you use beyond?
You can use it to say that an action has gone past a certain point. This is more formal than past, though.
Can you give us an example?
The party went beyond midnight.
The party kept going past midnight and didn't stop.
I thought that I could manage this new job, but it is beyond my ability level.
My ability level is, for example, intermediate level. But this new job needs someone who is at an advanced level, so it's past my level. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Bye! Have you seen the updated meeting calendar for this year?
No, I haven't.
The old calendar doesn't go beyond April, but I need to attend my daughter's graduation in June.
Hopefully there aren't any important meetings that day.
I hope not.
Maybe Mr. Anderson has a copy on his desk. Check behind his PC monitor.
Changing your American insurance plan. Eric here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions concerning and regarding. The conversation takes place at work.
It's between a female customer and Sean.
The speakers are strangers, so they will use formal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
Hello, Kennedy's Insurance. How may I be of assistance to you?
I have a question concerning my new insurance plan.
What is your question regarding?
It's about my payment dates. Can I change the date?
Of course. Do you want to continue weekly payments or monthly payments?
Can I change to monthly payments?
We will send you a letter regarding this change through the mail. Have a nice day.
Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
Hello, Kennedy's Insurance. How may I be of assistance to you?
I have a question concerning my new insurance plan.
What is your question regarding?
It's about my payment dates. Can I change the date?
Of course. Do you want to continue weekly payments or monthly payments?
Can I change to monthly payments?
We will send you a letter regarding this change through the mail. Have a nice day.
In this conversation, we got to see Sean at work.
Yes, it seems that he has a customer service job for an insurance company.
Customer service. What is that like in the US?
It's very important. If you work in customer service, you're expected to be polite and cheerful at all times.
I think the US has an international reputation for cheerful customer service.
Really? That's good to hear. Customer service is tough work.
Yeah, I guess that being helpful and happy all the time, despite external factors, must be tough.
Yeah, and many customer service positions aren't well paid.
We spoke in an earlier lesson about restaurant staff being underpaid and relying on tips.
You should also tip other people that work in customer service, such as taxi drivers and bellboys at hotels.
Wow, service with a smile is expensive. Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
Insurance.
agreement where a person makes payments to a company for a promise that the company will pay money in the case of injury or incident agreed upon.
Insurance. Insurance.
Next we have
Assistance.
to help somebody by sharing work or doing work for them.
Assistance. Assistance.
Next we have
Question.
a sentence worded to ask for information.
Question. Question.
Next we have
Payment.
money that is owed to cover a bill or service.
Payment. Payment.
Next we have
Date.
a day in the calendar.
Date. Date.
Next we have
Weekly.
to occur once every 7 days.
Weekly. Weekly.
Next we have
Monthly.
to occur once every month.
Monthly. Monthly.
And last,
Mail.
material sent by air, land, or sea using the postal system.
Mail. Mail.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
Question.
meaning a sentence worded to ask for information. What can you tell us about this word?
It's easy to make and identify question sentences in English.
What should we look out for?
Question words. These are what, where, when, who, how, and why.
Also in writing, you'll see a question mark.
When speaking, sometimes questions don't have question words. You can tell these by the rising intonation at the end. For example, you going home?
Can you give us an example using the word question?
Sure. For example, you can say, "Can I ask you a question?"
Which means, can I ask you something to find out some information? And this sentence is a question.
Right. Did you hear the rising intonation?
Okay, what's the next word?
Date.
Meaning a day in the calendar. What can you tell us about this word?
A date is a specific day, usually identified by month and day.
Here's a common question you might ask if you don't know what day it is. What's today's date?
You can also use the word date in a completely different way.
Ah, as in a romantic night out with a partner.
Yes, I have a date tonight, for example.
Can you give us another example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, "What was the date last Tuesday?"
Which means, what month and day was it last Tuesday? Okay, what's the next word?
Weekly.
Meaning to occur once every 7 days. Where does this word come from?
This comes from the word week and means that something happens once a week.
We can also say monthly for once a month.
or yearly for once a year.
If something happens twice in a 7-day period,
You'd say twice a week. You can also say twice weekly.
can you give us an example using weekly?
Sure, for example, you can say, I pay my rent weekly.
Which means I pay my rent every 7 days. That's not very common in the States, is it, Becky?
Nope. We usually pay monthly.
Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions concerning and regarding. These two prepositions are a little different from the ones we've discussed so far.
That's right. These have nothing to do with time or position.
Well, let's find out more about them. First up is concerning.
When you use it as a preposition, the meaning of concerning is very similar to about.
You use it to highlight the topic you want to talk about, or ask a question about it.
It's more formal than about, though.
That's why Sean used it in the conversation.
Yes, it's more polite and professional. About isn't an impolite word at all, but in formal English, concerning sounds better.
Let's hear some examples.
I had a phone call from school concerning my son.
The school called me as they wanted to talk about my son. The son was the topic.
All reports concerning cheating are dealt with by the principal.
Any reports of students cheating go to the principal. Here it's being used to say what the topic of the report is. Let's move on to regarding.
Regarding is very similar to concerning and about.
Most of the time, you can use it in the same situation as concerning.
It's also formal English.
Can you give us an example?
I have many problems regarding your proposal.
I have problems, and the topic of my problems is your proposal.
One big difference and something to be aware of is that concerning can also be an adjective.
Yes, it means the same as worrying.
This is a concerning situation, for example. Regarding is not an adjective, and in this case, it cannot be used to replace concerning.
Also, you can say with regards to or in regards to instead of regarding.
But you can't say with concerns to or in concerns to.
Make sure to keep this in mind. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Hello, Kennedy's Insurance. How may I be of assistance to you?
I have a question concerning my new insurance plan.
What is your question regarding?
It's about my payment dates. Can I change the date?
Of course. Do you want to continue weekly payments or monthly payments?
Can I change to monthly payments?
We will send you a letter regarding this change through the mail. Have a nice day.
How are your American company's sales figures looking? Eric here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions considering and despite. The conversation takes place at work.
It's between Rachel and Sean.
The speakers are coworkers, and they will use both formal and informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
I'm reviewing the sales figures for this month.
Are they better than last month?
Despite losing some clients at the start of the month, the figures are up.
That's good, especially considering our rivals started a cheaper plan.
I hope we can maintain the figures into next month.
Me too.
Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
I'm reviewing the sales figures for this month.
Are they better than last month?
Despite losing some clients at the start of the month, the figures are up.
That's good, especially considering our rivals started a cheaper plan.
I hope we can maintain the figures into next month.
Me too.
Sounds like good news at Rachel and Sean's company.
Yes, their sales figures are up. That's always what a business wants.
How is business in America?
The US has the world's largest economy.
Wow. The US is also a market leader in many businesses.
Some of the most famous companies in the world, like Apple and Ford, are American.
Becky, do you know what the biggest company in the world is?
Is this a quiz?
No, I don't know the answer. I was just wondering if you did.
It's Walmart, actually. Walmart is an American company but has locations in many countries around the world.
New York City is pretty important to the global economy too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big financial center and has the two largest stock exchanges in the world.
Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
To review.
to double check something for information or errors.
To review. To review.
Next we have
Sales.
the activity or business of selling products.
Sales. Sales.
Next we have
Figures.
numbers that relate to performance or sales of a company.
Figures. Figures.
Next we have
Better.
superior, preferable to something else.
Better. Better.
Next we have
Last.
final, with nothing after.
Last. Last.
Next we have
To lose.
to lack something you once had.
To lose. To lose.
Next we have
Up.
move towards a higher place.
Up. Up.
Next we have
Especially.
to highlight one particular thing.
Especially. Especially.
Next we have
Rival.
a person or thing in competition.
Rival. Rival.
And last,
To maintain.
to keep the same.
To maintain. To maintain.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
To review.
meaning to double check something for information or errors. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a verb and it follows regular conjugation patterns.
It can also be used as a noun.
Right. An exam review, for example.
This means students go over the material to make sure they haven't forgotten anything and that they understand everything.
There is another use for review, too. You can use it to give an opinion on a movie, album, product, something like that.
Oh, right. When I buy something, I often check the reviews on the website.
I sometimes leave reviews, too.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, I'm glad I reviewed my work as it had so many mistakes.
Which means, I'm glad that I checked my work as it had so many mistakes. Okay, what's the next word?
Better.
Meaning superior, preferable to something else. Where does this word come from?
Better is the comparative form of the adjective good.
Yes, good conjugates in a special way.
It's used to compare two objects and to say that one is of higher quality than the other.
What if you want to compare more than two objects?
We use the superlative form best.
Can you give us an example using better?
Sure, for example, you can say, I think this is the better option.
Okay, what's the next word?
Especially.
Meaning to highlight one particular thing. How do we use this word, Becky?
Imagine that a football team has played well all season.
I'm imagining that and wishing it was my team.
And they did really, really well in their last game. We could say, the team has played well all season, especially in the last game.
We are highlighting how good they were in the last game.
Yes, you can also say not especially as an answer if you are asked if something is good and it's only okay. For example, Eric, did your team play well last season?
Not especially.
That means the team did okay, but not great.
Can you give us an example using especially?
Sure, for example, you can say, I love all of her albums, but especially the first one.
Which means, I love all of her albums, but I think her best one is the first one. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions considering and despite. There are two prepositions for this lesson.
Let's jump in and start with the first one.
Good idea. First is considering.
You use this to introduce a fact you're thinking about when you're giving an opinion.
Often these facts are something bad, right?
Yes, we use it to show how good the result was.
Let's work through an example. A man has to do some work, but he gets told late and doesn't have much time to do it.
If the work was good, we could say, his work is very good, considering he had little time.
We're highlighting that he didn't have much time to do it. But the work was good anyway.
Another example is, there wasn't much traffic considering it was a holiday.
Or, she's very active and alert considering her age.
You have to be careful when you're using considering, though, as the fact is often negative. It can make compliments sound less sincere.
Yes, sometimes it's best just to say she's very active instead of bringing her age into it.
Right, good example.
The next preposition is despite.
You use this to say that something is true even though other things happened that should have prevented it.
The meaning is very similar to even though.
For example, everyone passed the exam, despite the error on the test.
So there was a mistake on the test. It could have caused people to fail, but they didn't.
Or, he is always happy despite his illness.
He's ill, but he's still always happy.
Sometimes you can use either considering or despite, but there are slight differences in meaning. For example, the traffic was light, considering it was a holiday.
As it's a holiday, there are more cars, but the traffic was still light.
The traffic was light despite it being a holiday.
Even though the traffic should be worse because it's a holiday, the traffic was light. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Bye! I'm reviewing the sales figures for this month.
Are they better than last month?
Despite losing some clients at the start of the month, the figures are up.
That's good, especially considering our rivals started a cheaper plan.
I hope we can maintain the figures into next month.
Me too.
Getting invited to Thanksgiving dinner in the United States. Eric here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions on and off. The conversation takes place at home.
It's between Kate and Sean.
The speakers are friends, so they will use informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
Hey, Kate. Thanks for inviting me to your Thanksgiving dinner.
Thanks for coming early to help me. Can you put the cranberry sauce on the table?
Should I leave those candles on the table?
Can you take them off the table?
Sure. I'll switch the TV off too.
No, leave the TV on. I want to watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
Hey, Kate. Thanks for inviting me to your Thanksgiving dinner.
Thanks for coming early to help me. Can you put the cranberry sauce on the table?
Should I leave those candles on the table?
Can you take them off the table?
Sure. I'll switch the TV off too.
No, leave the TV on. I want to watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Oh, Thanksgiving dinner. That's an important date on the calendar for any American.
It is. Thanksgiving is celebrated on the fourth Thursday of November every year.
So the date always changes, but it's always a Thursday.
The first Thanksgiving is said to have been celebrated by the Pilgrims in the 17th century as part of a harvest celebration.
What is the 21st century Thanksgiving like?
It's an important family day
Yes, families gather together to give thanks
and eat lots of food.
and sometimes argue.
Families do that sometimes. There is a traditional Thanksgiving meal that is centered around turkey and all of the trimmings.
There's so much food. I like Thanksgiving because I love to watch the football games that day.
Yeah? I like watching the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
To invite.
to ask someone to attend.
To invite. To invite.
Next we have
Dinner.
the final meal of the day, the meal after lunch.
Dinner. Dinner.
Next we have
Sauce.
a liquid served with food to add flavor or moisture.
Sauce. Sauce.
Next we have
Candle.
an object made of wax with a wick in the middle that can be lit to provide light.
Candle. Candle.
Next we have
To switch.
to change, to shift.
To switch. To switch.
Next we have
Table.
an item of furniture with a flat surface that objects can be placed upon.
Table. Table.
Next we have
TV.
an appliance that can receive broadcast signals.
TV. TV.
And last,
Parade.
a moving line of people and displays called floats in celebration of a holiday or other important event.
Parade. Parade.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
To invite.
meaning to ask someone to attend. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a verb that you can use to politely ask someone to attend a party or event.
If you're being polite and formal, you might give people a card or letter with the details.
Yes, this is called an invite or an invitation.
If someone comes but hasn't been invited, you can say that they are an uninvited guest.
In fact, you can use that in any situation when someone you don't want arrives.
Can you give us an example using the verb invite?
Sure. For example, you can say, Have you been invited to the office party?
Which means, have you been asked to come to the office party? Okay, what's the next word?
To switch.
Meaning to change, to shift. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a verb that conjugates in a regular way.
When do you use it?
You often use it when talking about electrical objects, to switch on and to switch off.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure, for example, you can say, switch off the lights before you leave the room.
Which means turn off the lights before you leave the room. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions on and off. The two prepositions in this lesson are quite closely linked, so let's look at them in detail.
Yeah, we've looked at the preposition on a couple of times.
Yes, in Lesson 1 in relation to time, and in Lesson 2 in relation to place and position.
This time, we'll look at it again for position.
So, how do you use it for position?
You use it for surfaces. It is often teamed with verbs such as to put.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. The clock is on the wall.
Where's the clock? Look at the wall.
Another example is, I can't go to bed yet because my dog is sleeping on my bed.
On top of the bed is the dog.
Yeah, we don't want to disturb the dog. Like the expression says, let sleeping dogs lie.
What does that mean?
It means don't start trouble. Let things stay the way they are.
Okay, the next preposition is off.
Off is also a preposition of position. It's used to say that an object has moved away or down from something.
It's often used with verbs like to fall or to take.
It has the opposite meaning to on sometimes, as in, I put the pen on the table, or I took the pen off the table.
They are opposite actions. Okay, let's hear some examples for off.
I fell off the ladder.
I was on the ladder, but I fell.
You should pick up your dog and take him off the bed.
Ah, earlier you said you couldn't go to bed because the dog was on the bed.
Yes, a solution is to pick up the dog and take him off.
So I guess you shouldn't let all sleeping dogs lie. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Bye!
Hey, Kate. Thanks for inviting me to your Thanksgiving dinner.
Thanks for coming early to help me. Can you put the cranberry sauce on the table?
Should I leave those candles on the table?
Can you take them off the table?
Sure. I'll switch the TV off too.
No, leave the TV on. I want to watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Do these American brothers look alike? Eric here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions like and unlike. The conversation takes place at home.
It's between Kate and Sean.
The speakers are friends, so they will use informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
I met Sam's younger brother yesterday. He looks like Sam.
Really? Sam doesn't look like his older brother at all.
I think they are similar. Sam's hair is different to his older brother now, though, unlike before.
That's true, and unlike some other brothers, you never see them together.
I think they had an argument a few years ago.
That sounds like Sam.
Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
I met Sam's younger brother yesterday. He looks like Sam.
Really? Sam doesn't look like his older brother at all.
I think they are similar. Sam's hair is different to his older brother now, though, unlike before.
That's true. And unlike some other brothers, you never see them together.
I think they had an argument a few years ago.
That sounds like Sam.
Family is important to Americans, isn't it?
It is, yes. A family unit in America used to be defined as a married man and woman with some children.
Is that not the case anymore?
In June 2015, same-sex marriage was legalized nationwide in the United States. Some individual states legalized it before that date.
What other types of families are there?
Not as many people choose to marry now, and more people are getting divorced, so it's not always a married couple.
Yes, people often live together and have kids without getting married.
That's right. People get divorced and then date someone new. So there are many step-families where parents bring in children from other marriages.
There's also many families where people don't date anyone and go it alone.
Yes, single-parent families are very common too.
Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
Younger,
of fewer years.
younger, younger.
Next we have
Brother,
male sibling.
brother, brother.
Next we have
Yesterday,
the day before today.
yesterday, yesterday.
Next we have
Older,
of more years.
older, older.
Next we have
Similar,
not the same, but with common characteristics.
similar, similar.
Next we have
Hair,
the fine strands that grow from human skin.
hair, hair.
Next we have
Argument,
an angry exchange of opposing opinions or ideas.
argument, argument.
Next we have
Few,
a small number of.
few, few.
And lastly,
To sound,
to appear to be, to look like.
to sound, to sound.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
Younger.
meaning of fewer years. What can you tell us about this word?
Younger is the comparative form of young.
You use it to compare two things and to say that one is not as old or of fewer years.
If you want to compare more things, you use the superlative form youngest,
The opposite word is older.
which comes from the adjective old.
Can you give us an example using younger?
Sure. For example, you can say, he is younger than his brother.
Which means, of the two brothers, he is of fewer years. Okay, what's the next word?
Yesterday.
Meaning the day before today. When do you use this word, Becky?
You use this to talk about a day of the week. It always means the day before today.
So if today is Monday,
Yesterday was Sunday.
what about the day after today?
We call that tomorrow.
Can you give us an example using yesterday?
Sure. For example, you can say, I met her yesterday.
Which means, I met her on the day before today. Okay, what's the next word?
To sound.
Meaning to appear to be, to look like. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a verb that conjugates regularly. It has a couple of meanings.
How's it being used here?
It can be used for something that appears to be something and has a certain impression.
So if your friend is always late and they're late again, you can say, sounds like my friend.
You have the impression of them always being late. It appears that they're being their usual selves.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, it sounds like you're in trouble.
Which means, it appears that you're in trouble. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions like and unlike. I think it's pretty obvious that these two words are closely linked.
Now, why do you think that?
Just a hunch. Let's start with like.
As a preposition, you can use like for comparison and similarities.
If two or more things are similar, you can say that they are like each other.
For example, I am like my mother.
That means that in some way, Becky and her mother are similar.
A common phrase using this word is look like.
They look like twins.
Another example of like is I graduated from Harvard, like you.
I graduated from Harvard, and you graduated from Harvard. It is a similarity.
Another example is it's so cold today that it's like winter came already.
It's not winter, but it's as cold as winter. It's similar to winter.
We don't need days that are like winter.
No, we don't. The next preposition is unlike.
This is the opposite of like. It's for things that aren't similar.
You can also use it to say that something is different from something else.
I am unlike my mother.
This time, Becky doesn't have any similarities with her mother.
He's blonde, unlike the rest of his family.
He's blonde, but the rest of his family isn't. He isn't similar.
Some countries in the EU chose not to adopt the euro, unlike France.
Some countries didn't take the euro. France did. It's different from those countries.
Be careful though, I pointed out the phrase look like earlier. We don't really say look unlike, though.
We would say doesn't look like instead. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Bye! I met Sam's younger brother yesterday. He looks like Sam.
Really? Sam doesn't look like his older brother at all.
I think they are similar. Sam's hair is different to his older brother now, though, unlike before.
That's true, and unlike some other brothers, you never see them together.
I think they had an argument a few years ago.
That sounds like Sam.
Looking forward to your first American office Christmas party. Eric here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions except and excluding. The conversation takes place at work.
It's between Kate and Sean.
The speakers are coworkers, therefore they will speak informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
I hear that you're arranging the Christmas party this year.
That's right. Everyone is going except for Carl from HR.
How much will it cost?
It's $50 each, excluding drinks.
That's reasonable. Do I pay now or later?
Pay later, except for a $5 deposit.
Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
I hear that you're arranging the Christmas party this year.
That's right. Everyone is going except for Carl from HR.
How much will it cost?
It's $50 each, excluding drinks.
That's reasonable. Do I pay now or later?
Pay later, except for a $5 deposit.
Time for the office Christmas party.
That's probably one of the most terrifying phrases you can hear.
Not a fan of office parties?
Not really. We spoke about birthday parties earlier in the series, but those aren't the only parties you'll see in America.
As we just heard, they're often Christmas parties, which Becky hates.
I don't hate Christmas parties, just awkward office parties.
You have a point. What other type of parties are there?
There are parties for moving, getting a new job, getting engaged, weddings.
Wow, lots of parties. There are parties for pregnant women too, right?
Yes, some mothers-to-be have baby showers to help prepare for the arrival of the baby.
So, getting back to office parties, do you have to go to parties organized by work?
You don't have to usually, but it's expected.
Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
To arrange.
to organize.
To arrange. To arrange.
Next we have
Everyone.
every person, each person.
Everyone. Everyone.
Next we have
To cost.
to require payment for something.
To cost. To cost.
Next we have
Each.
a piece.
Each. Each.
Next we have
Drinks.
a liquid that is drunk for refreshment.
Drinks. Drinks.
Next we have
Reasonable.
logical or fair or agreeable.
Reasonable. Reasonable.
Next we have
To pay.
to give someone the money owed for services or goods.
To pay. To pay.
And last,
Deposit.
a sum of money paid as an advance installment.
Deposit. Deposit.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
To arrange.
meaning to organize. Becky, what can you tell us about this word?
This is a verb. The conjugations are regular. When writing, just remember to drop the E if you add an ending that starts with a vowel.
How do you use it?
You use it to describe organizing things and also for organizing a party or meeting.
Can it be again? Can it be used as a noun?
No, but you can use arrangement instead.
Can you give us an example using to arrange?
Sure, for example, you can say, is the meeting fully arranged for tomorrow?
Which means, is the meeting completely organized for tomorrow? Okay, what's the next word?
Everyone.
Meaning every person, each person. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a pronoun that's used to mean every person, all the people.
If there's a group of people and you want to talk about all of them, you can say everyone.
Yes, there are related words too, such as everything to mean all things, everywhere to mean all places.
And every time meaning all times.
Every plus another word is very useful.
Can you give us an example using everyone?
Sure, for example, you can say, does everyone understand?
Which means, do all the people here understand? Okay, what's the next word?
To pay.
To give someone the money owed for services or goods. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a verb. The past tense and past participle are irregular and take the form paid.
How do you use it?
If I go to a store and buy something with money, then I have paid for it.
It specifically means giving money for what you have received.
That's right.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, shall I pay the bill?
Which means, shall I give money to cover the bill? Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions except and excluding. Another 2 prepositions in this lesson.
We don't have many more left to cover in this series.
No, so let's get started right away. The first preposition is except.
This means not including.
For example, if you like all fruits but you don't like apples, you can say,
I like all fruits except apples.
apples are different to the other fruits as you don't like them.
Another example is, everyone is coming except Ben.
There's a party or event or something, and everyone is coming.
But Ben isn't coming.
Ben is missing out.
Another example is, all trains to Brooklyn today are canceled due to the bad weather, except for the express train.
Every train to Brooklyn is canceled. The express train, however, is still running.
Well, it's still running for now anyway.
The next preposition is excluding.
Excluding also means not including. In fact, they're pretty interchangeable.
What's the difference?
You're more likely to hear except, especially in speech. Also, if we're talking about a package deal that doesn't include something, you can only use excluding.
We heard this in the conversation. Kate said it's $50 each, excluding drinks.
That's right. The party package is $50, but doesn't include drinks. You can't say, it's $50 each, except drinks.
It has to be excluding. Let's hear another example.
This is one where you can use both. The office is open every day, excluding Tuesdays.
But in that situation, you're more likely to hear except Tuesdays.
I think so.
Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
I hear that you're arranging the Christmas party this year.
That's right. Everyone is going except for Carl from HR.
How much will it cost?
It's $50 each, excluding drinks.
That's reasonable. Do I pay now or later?
Pay later, except for a $5 deposit.
What's all the commotion on this American street? Eric here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions against and opposite. The conversation takes place at work.
It's between Kate and Sean.
The speakers are coworkers, and they'll use both formal and informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
What is that noise outside?
It's a demonstration against the recent tax hikes.
It sounds really close.
Yeah, the protesters' headquarters are opposite us.
If my desk wasn't against the window, maybe it wouldn't sound so noisy.
You can move to the desk opposite me for today if you wish.
Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
What is that noise outside?
It's a demonstration against the recent tax hikes.
It sounds really close.
Yeah, the protesters' headquarters are opposite us.
If my desk wasn't against the window, maybe it wouldn't sound so noisy.
You can move to the desk opposite me for today if you wish.
I hope that they don't have serious work to do, as it sounds like it's a little noisy at the office this time.
Yeah, there is a protest happening outside. That's bound to be distracting.
Are protests common in America?
Well, politics and freedom are important to Americans, and if we don't feel that our voices are being heard, then we might protest.
What kind of things do you protest against?
It can be employment-related, like higher wages or better health care, or it can be related to social issues.
I remember hearing on the news about some protests over the last couple of years against alleged police brutality.
That's right. That's been a hot topic for some communities.
And those protests then had counter-protests.
Yeah, if you protest for, say, stricter gun control, then I bet that there will be people protesting against your protest.
Do protests work?
Sometimes, but even if the end goal isn't reached, they raise awareness.
Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
Noise,
sounds that are often loud and unwanted.
noise, noise.
Next we have
Demonstration,
a practical exhibition and explanation, a public gathering to protest something.
demonstration, demonstration.
Next we have
Tax,
compulsory contribution to state revenue.
tax, tax.
Next we have
Hike,
a steep increase.
hike, hike.
Next we have
Protester,
a person who publicly demonstrates and opposes something.
protester, protester.
Next we have
Headquarters,
the place that serves as a managerial and administrative center of an organization.
headquarters, headquarters.
Next we have
Window,
a glass opening in a wall that lets in light.
window, window.
Next we have
To move,
to change position.
to move, to move.
And lastly,
To wish,
to want something to be true or to happen.
to wish, to wish.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
Noise,
meaning sounds that are often loud and unwanted. What can you tell us about this word?
the key part is loud and unwanted.
If there is loud music that we want to listen to, we wouldn't call that noise.
No, if the loud music is coming from our neighbors and we don't want to hear it, then that would be noise.
Can this be used as an adjective?
No, but we can call things noisy.
Can you give us an example using noise?
Sure, for example, you can say, the only noise I can hear is you slurping your soup.
Which means the only unwanted sounds I can hear is you slurping your soup. Okay, what's the next word?
To move,
Meaning to change where someone lives. When do you use this word?
this verb is generally used for the action of changing place or position.
So if you were on the first floor and then went to the second floor, you have moved to the second floor.
That's right. It also has a specific meaning of changing where you live.
If we say, I'm moving,
It means that we are physically moving from one house to another.
can you give us an example using this word?
Sure, for example, you can say, it's too hot today. Let's move out of the sun.
Which means it's too hot today. Let's go to a place that isn't in the sun. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions against and opposite. 2 more prepositions to cross off the list in this lesson.
You like seeing these prepositions being crossed off the list, don't you?
I do. We're making progress. The first preposition is against.
We can use against to say that we oppose a concept or idea.
If the idea is that everyone can go home at 3 p.m. and we don't agree with that, then we are against it.
I don't see why anyone would be against that, but yes, that's how it works.
Can you give us a more typical example?
I'm against animal testing.
I don't agree with and oppose testing medicine or makeup on animals.
Or, the group is against elementary school testing.
The group doesn't agree with testing elementary school children.
You can also use against in a sports context to say what opponent you're facing.
For example, if there's a game tomorrow with the Dallas Cowboys and the New Orleans Saints, we could say,
The Dallas Cowboys are playing against the New Orleans Saints tomorrow.
the next preposition is opposite.
We looked at opposite in Lesson 8, so let's review it here. It can be used for place, to say that something is on the other side or facing another object.
Let's hear an example.
I live opposite the park.
Becky, why are we reviewing opposite here?
It's because opposite can have a similar meaning to against. Take the sentence, I have the opposite view from him.
That means that I have a different view from him, and might even be against him.
But it's different because opposite is being used as an adjective here, not a preposition.
So although their meaning can be similar, they serve different functions in a sentence.
So don't mix them up.
Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Bye!
What is that noise outside?
It's a demonstration against the recent tax hikes.
It sounds really close.
Yeah, the protesters' headquarters are opposite us.
If my desk wasn't against the window, maybe it wouldn't sound so noisy.
You can move to the desk opposite me for today if you wish.
Do you feel like an American snack? Eric here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this lesson, you'll learn the prepositions with and without. The conversation takes place at a bar.
It's between Kate and Sean.
The speakers are friends, so they will use informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
I'll have a soda.
With ice or without ice?
Without ice. What do you want?
I'm not very thirsty, but I am hungry.
The bar serves snacks. You could order some fries.
I'll have a plate of small fries with ketchup.
Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
I'll have a soda.
With ice or without ice?
Without ice. What do you want?
I'm not very thirsty, but I am hungry.
The bar serves snacks. You could order some fries.
I'll have a plate of small fries with ketchup.
Kate and Sean seem to be having a friendly drink and snack together.
Yes, fries are a common order for a snack if you're in a bar.
What types of meals are popular in America?
Well, when people think of American food, they might think of fast food such as hamburgers or pizzas.
I think so too.
They are popular in the States both for eating at home and eating out. But there's many more types of popular dishes too.
What else is popular?
People love to cook at home if they have time, and the food is usually heavy and filling.
What kind of meals do people cook at home?
Pies, hot pots, macaroni, pastas, roasts. There are many options.
What about desserts? Those are my favorite part of any meal.
Baked goods are popular, such as cookies, muffins, and the good old American apple pie.
Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
Soda,
soft drink, carbonated or bubbly drink.
soda, soda.
Next we have
Ice,
frozen water.
ice, ice.
Next we have
Thirsty,
to want or need something to drink.
thirsty, thirsty.
Next we have
Hungry,
to want or need something to eat.
hungry, hungry.
Next we have
To serve.
to help, to attend to work for.
To serve. To serve.
Next we have
Snack.
food eaten between meals.
Snack. Snack.
Next we have
To order.
to request something to be made or delivered.
To order. To order.
Next we have
Plate.
a flat dish to eat food off of.
Plate. Plate.
Next we have
Small.
not big, little.
Small. Small.
And last,
Ketchup.
tomato-based condiment.
Ketchup. Ketchup.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
Hungry.
meaning to want or need something to eat. What can you tell us about this adjective?
You use this to describe being in a state of wanting or needing food.
What about if you need something to drink?
In that case, you say thirsty.
Are there any other words we can use instead of hungry?
You can say starving, but this is informal. It means being hungry to the point of death, so it's best not to use it in formal situations.
Can you give us an example using hungry?
Sure, for example, you can say, I haven't eaten since lunch, so I'm hungry.
Which means, I haven't eaten since lunch, so I need something to eat. Okay, what's the next word?
To order.
Meaning to request something to be made or delivered. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a verb and it conjugates in a regular way.
What is it used for?
It's often used in restaurants when you request your food.
Can it be used as a noun too?
Yes, you can say that food you have asked for is your order.
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure, for example, you can say, have you ordered yet?
Which means, have you asked for the food you wanted yet? Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions with and without. Lesson 24, we're nearly at the end.
Just a little further to go. We can do it.
Let's start with the first preposition for this class, with.
We use this to mean accompanying and together.
Yes, like burger with ketchup.
It can also be used for connecting and relating things together.
Like she agrees with me.
We use with in between the items being linked. When it's used to mean together, it's usually used with nouns, like the burger and ketchup example from earlier.
When you use it to connect and relate things, it can be used with many types of words. She agrees with me connects a verb with a pronoun.
Here's another example. I went shopping with my mom.
Becky and her mom went shopping together.
He completed the work on time with difficulty.
Here are two things, completing the work and having difficulty. With links them together to show that the difficulty was in finishing the work. Okay, the next preposition is without.
You can use this to mean not accompanying and not together, as in burger without ketchup.
It can also be used to connect and relate things in a negative way.
But be careful, we can't say, she agrees without me. Instead, we would say, she doesn't agree with me.
Let's have another example.
I went shopping without my mom.
My mom didn't go shopping with me.
He changed lanes without warning.
Here are two things, changing lanes when driving and not giving a warning. Without links them to show that the warning wasn't given when changing lanes.
The last example is, he completed the work on time without difficulty.
This time, it was easy for him to finish the work on time. Okay, that's all for this lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Bye!
I'll have a soda.
With ice or without ice?
Without ice. What do you want?
I'm not very thirsty, but I am hungry.
The bar serves snacks. You could order some fries.
I'll have a plate of small fries with ketchup.
What's missing from this American restaurant check? Eric here.
Hey, I'm Becky.
In this final lesson of the series, you'll learn the prepositions plus and minus. The conversation takes place at a bar.
It's between Kate and Sean.
The speakers are friends, so they will use informal English. Okay, let's listen to the conversation.
Wait, I don't think this check is right.
What's wrong?
We ordered everything on here minus this pizza.
And I think it should be plus another plate of fries.
Oh, you're right. We should ask the bartender to correct it.
Maybe he will take a little more off the total to apologize for the mistake.
Listen to the conversation one time slowly.
Wait, I don't think this check is right.
What's wrong?
We ordered everything on here minus this pizza.
And I think it should be plus another plate of fries.
Oh, you're right. We should ask the bartender to correct it.
Maybe he will take a little more off the total to apologize for the mistake.
Wow, sounds like the bar made a mess of their order.
I know, they put something extra on and left something else off.
We spoke about customer service in an earlier lesson, but what happens if the service has been bad?
You might need to complain.
What kind of things do people complain about?
Late or cold food, slow service, broken products. There are many things to complain about.
How should we complain if we need to?
First, speak to a member of staff. If possible, speak to the staff member who served you.
If it was an online purchase, the website should have a complaints procedure.
You can also sometimes voice your complaint publicly via social media.
The ultimate and most formal complaint is in writing.
These last two are often a last resort. I think most people these days would rather talk things through.
Okay, let's take a look at the vocabulary from this lesson. The first word is
Check.
notice of amount owed at a restaurant.
Check. Check.
Next we have
Right.
correct.
Right. Right.
Next we have
Pizza.
a food that originated in Italy and is usually a flat, round dough covered in various toppings.
Pizza. Pizza.
Next we have
Fries.
potatoes that have been cut and fried.
Fries. Fries.
Next we have
To ask.
to request something from someone.
To ask. To ask.
Next we have
Bartender.
someone that works in a bar serving drinks.
Bartender. Bartender.
Next we have
Correct.
free from error.
Correct. Correct.
And last,
Mistake.
to get something wrong, to make an error.
Mistake. Mistake.
Let's have a closer look at the usage of some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first word is
Check.
meaning a notice of the amount owed at a restaurant. What can you tell us about this word?
This is a noun, and we use it to describe the list of food and drinks we bought in a restaurant and the total cost.
You usually only see the check at the end of the meal.
Yes, in some restaurants, you have to ask for the check, and it's a clear way to show that you're finished.
You can say something as simple as, check please.
Or you can be more polite and say, "Can I have the check, please?"
Can you give us an example using this word?
Sure. For example, you can say, "Shall I ask for the check?"
Which means, shall I ask for the bill? Okay, what's the next word?
Right.
No, I'm asking you.
I know. Right.
So, what's the word?
The word is right.
Oh, meaning correct. What can you tell us about this word?
Right has many meanings. It can be used to mean you agree, which is why Eric and I got confused. It can also be a direction.
But in the conversation, it means to be correct.
Yes, correct means the same, but is more formal.
The opposite to right is wrong. Can you give us an example using right?
Sure. For example, you can say, "I think this is the right way to the hotel."
Okay, what's the next word?
Mistake.
Meaning to get something wrong, to make an error. What can you tell us about this?
This kind of follows on from the last word.
Yes, I guess it does.
The last word was right, but this word, mistake, means wrong.
A mistake can be anything that is wrong, from a spelling mistake to going to the wrong place.
A more formal word for it is error.
Can you give us an example using mistake?
For example, you can say, "I made a mistake when I counted how many people were coming."
Which means, I got it wrong when I counted how many people were coming. Okay, now on to the lesson focus. In this lesson, you'll learn about the prepositions plus and minus, and it's the last lesson.
It is 24 down, only 1 to go.
So let's make it a good lesson. The first preposition is plus.
We use this to add 2 or more things together.
It's mainly used in informal writing and speech about finance and numbers.
And math. I'm not a fan of math. An example is, it costs $100 plus $10 in fees.
I'm not a fan of math either, but I'm pretty sure that means that it costs $110 total.
That's right. Another example is, I owe you money for the tickets and hotel plus gas.
So I owe you money for the tickets, the hotel, and the gas.
By saying tickets and hotel plus gas, you're putting emphasis on owing gas. Maybe it wasn't part of the original deal. Maybe it's something that's just been added. There's a small difference with saying plus instead of and, but the basic meaning is the same.
The next preposition is minus.
This is basically opposite to plus.
More math.
More math, but this time we are taking away.
Can you give us an example?
It cost $100 minus a $10 discount.
So it cost $90 after the discount has been taken into account.
That's right. Do you want an example that isn't math?
Yes, please.
I bought all of my clothes in this store minus the coat.
So everything was bought in this store, but the coat was bought somewhere else.
Yes, and one last example. It's $200 minus the $20 deposit you already paid. So you owe $180.
I like that example. The math was already done.
I thought you might.
Okay, that's all for this lesson.
And for this series.
We hope you enjoyed it and found it useful.
Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you in another series.
Bye.
Bye. Wait, I don't think this check is right.
What's wrong?
We ordered everything on here minus this pizza.
And I think it should be plus another plate of fries.
Oh, you're right. We should ask the bartender to correct it.
Maybe he will take a little more off the total to apologize for the mistake.